will need to follow my voice as it leads you into a relaxed state of meditation.
Welcome to the Hobby Grow podcast. I'm your host, Ben Owens, hobby grower and ghostwriter for the cannabis industry. Each week, we'll dive into my network of growers, hash makers, breeders, and mentors to give you insight into their journeys as growers, plus information you can use to grow better weed and make better hash at home. Hit subscribe, roll something up, and let's get into it. This episode, we are joined by RARExtracts, Colorado homegrower and licensed Oklahoma extractor. Rare got his start on the western slopes, eventually establishing himself in BHO and live sauces before setting up a licensed facility in Oklahoma to produce extracts for the medical market, including RSO. He and I first met at Secret Sesh at City Hall in Denver and reconnected after I moved out to Longmont over growing in hash. I asked Rare to join me today to talk about his journey as a hobby grower, the evolution of extracts, electricity in the grow and when to hire an electrician, and advice to other growers out there considering giving this a shot or considering jumping into the legal market or just curious about making more hash. So, Rare, how's it going, man?
Doing good. Great to be here.
Thanks for joining me on this little journey I have going.
Yeah, dude, thanks for having me out here. This awesome table.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard you on a podcast.
So I was on, I don't know what it was. It was some New York Cannabis Growers Cup, Home Growers Cup that was going to occur. And they started a podcast and I did one episode on that. And I never really saw it get published. And that was kind of similar to this. It wasn't a video. It was just audio and in its similarity. And then the other ones you can watch that are video that are on YouTube are the Bear Mountain Studios podcast.
Okay.
Evan, they did it. They have I can't remember the name of the podcast, but if you type it in, Bear Mountain Studios podcast and RARExtracts, it should pop up. I did 2 or 3 episodes with him. Pretty sure it was 2.
Very cool.
They're about like 1 hour long.
Okay.
Video with us discussing really just hash and glass, like not really in depth to like the history of the brand or anything like that.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Like, you go by RARExtracts. Where did that journey start? And then, obviously, how did you get your name and sort of transition that into a brand?
Totally, yeah. So obviously, like many people who got into early cannabis consumption, it leads you down a wormhole where especially with the internet nowadays. I started smoking in high school. So out of high school, you're looking up stuff like how to grow. And I didn't really have any opportunities other than a family friend owning an electrical company. So I got into that electrical company, and within about a year, I was doing some electrical work. And at the same time, at night, when I was off work, looking at how to grow cannabis at home. And at the time, I didn't really know there was medical markets in the USA. I didn't know cannabis was being grown all over the place in California or Washington. I had no idea about any of this. From all the people that I grew up with, we all just thought Amsterdam is where cannabis is grown. So I had already plotted this plan out, and I was told in the electrical trade, like, hey, after 2 years, you'll get a vacation time. Just work for 2 years, and that's the coolest part of this job. After that, other things will start kicking in, but use your vacation time wisely, was what I was always told. So immediately I was like, I'm going to save enough money and go to Amsterdam and get some seeds because I'm going to learn to grow. So got my seeds after 2 years of working at the trade, did my Amsterdam vacation, and I told my journeyman who I was working with that I wanted to do this, and he was super cool. He smoked, and he was like, hey, man, we're going to pull down parking lots event. We say to pull down parking lots, which is like a demo. Sometimes when parking lots are being destroyed and turned into like a spot for an erection of a hotel or a building or something like that, or a new complex, they take all of those lights down. And he goes, when we tear down a parking lot, you'll get one of the lights and you can put that in your closet and it'll look like Jesus lives in there. It'll be bright as shit. Every time you open the door, you'll have to wear sunglasses and you can grow weed under there. And I was like, okay, all right, deal. He goes, and we work on the job. So like once you get this light, just go and ask an air conditioner guy if he can help you run a duct into like a closet or something, frame something out in your garage. He guided me the whole way. So I went and got LA Confidential, Cantaloupe Haze, and Purple Confidential from DNA Genetics in Amsterdam, among a bunch of other seeds.
Okay.
Brought them back and sprouted the Cantaloupe Haze because it was a freebie. The other two I paid for. And I grew a little bit in Florida. And the recession hit. So like I got in the electrical trade 2004, right out of high school. I graduated 2003 in the summer. For lack of better terms, fucked off for about 6 months. Tried to go to college, tried to do the graphic arts program directly out. Didn't work for me. Got in the trades. Met a bunch of cool roughnecks that taught me how to grow weed and shit. 2009 hits and it's a recession. And everyone's getting fired. The whole company's getting laid off. The boss he's being honest. He's like, dude, we're all done. I told my dad, I was like, hey, and then my parents are cool. They're hippies from upstate New York, right outside of Bethel, which is where, if anybody knows, where Woodstock was. So like my mom sold lemonade to people that walked down Route 209 to go to Woodstock, like her and her sister. So
Okay.
like my uncles grew weed in the back of their house. Like it's a family thing. So like they were all cool with it. My parents knew what I was doing. Their big interest in me was making sure I had bought a house, went to the electrical trade or college,
Had a career.
yeah, the infrastructure to be a little bit of a successful independent adult at a young age. A lot of my friends were going to college and just fucking off, spending 4 years of just getting drunk every day and doing nothing. I wasn't really into drinking yet. I had never really drank. All I did was smoke. So when that recession hit, I told my dad, I was like, hey, is it cool if I kind of lean more into this cannabis thing? Would you care? And he was like, no, I don't. What do you mean? I was like, I'm gonna go to California to grow. I found out they grow out there. I'd met these surfer dudes in Jacksonville that were from California, and they grew. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go out to Cali and grow. So my dad, for the first time, was like, hey, your uncle grows weed in Colorado. Let's go visit him first. And if you like it out there, I'm gonna go out there and ski anyways. So you can come with me, because my dad would always go on ski trips. It was like his thing with his brothers,
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, I'm gonna go to Colorado ski with my brother, and he grows weed. So and I didn't know, and they never told me that.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, cool. So I come out here, and he's got a couple sheds on his property, and you can see the doors glowing once the sun goes down on all the sheds. And I was like, sweet, uncle. His name's Joe. Everyone can find him online. He's started from IC Mag, which was one of the first, if people are familiar, it's International Canographic Magazine. It was one of the first online forums. It actually got shut down by the feds, and it was all archived onto books. And those books used to be sold in the back of the High Times magazines. You could buy them. They're like dictionaries. And if you go through there and you find CBF, which was his acronym, so anything word-wise that was CBF,
Yeah.
was him. So he would change it all the time.
It's like cherry blossom fruit.
Exactly. Clear Barbed Funk is one of them.
Okay.
Cedarberry Farms is another one.
Okay.
If you see those, that's him. And he'll always be breeding hazes and shit. Loved hazes. And where he got his real thrill was these strawberry cuts. These old, he told me a lot of them are bred off of the SR71 out of California, and then up into fucking Tom Hill, who got all these really cool strawberry cream cuts. My uncle would breed them back and cross them into each other and just make them more powerful with the same strain, notes and everything. They were just trying to make them more rigid to stress and stuff like that, or resistant to stress.
So yeah, just sort of directionally breeding out the flaws.
Mm-hmm. And they were crazy. It was I had gone to California, and the big craze out there was cookies and shit. And I'd smell cookies, weed, and be like, I guess it smells like cookies. But man, when I came out here to Colorado, and I had smoked a lot of different cannabis in Florida and Amsterdam and shit. When I came here, he was like, check this. This is grape ape. And it smelled like grapes. He's check this strawberry cream. Smelled like strawberry cream. When you smoke it, tasted like it. Honey banana, same deal. I was like, all right, And he this is something else he told me. So like they grew it like, I want to say it's like 7,600 feet in altitude. And the city is Cedar Edge, Colorado. It's this tiny little city on the backside of the Grand Mesa. The Grand Mesa is the largest flat top mountain in the United States, and I want to say it's one of the largest in the world. It's mesas are like giant mountains with like top sawed off. My uncle said that it's like an old retired volcano or something like that. But he said that's why the soil's really good out here. So they would grow indoor all winter in those sheds, and then when the winter would come, grow plants the size of California outdoor. And he was like, I'm a licensed caregiver. Colorado has a caregiver program. And here's the deal. Like, you can blow it up, but you got to help people. Like, you got to help. And I was like, what does that mean? And he was like, you and your dad are vacationing here for 2 weeks? I'll show you. I have patients I got to go meet up with. We would drive down to this lady's house. Her husband was in a chair in a room on ventilation. And they were putting RSO in his belly button that they were making, my uncle was making with other people from like fucking Everclear and like a rice cooker. Right. And then they had a shed in their backyard that my uncle took care of. Same kind of style as his. He'd like get these tough sheds dropped off at people's spots.
Okay.
Pay someone to run power out to it and grow weed at their house. And he'd be like, here, I'll harvest this. I'll grow my plants here. Here's your share. Here's my share. And I'll go make medicine out of this share. And like he'd kind of divvy it up.
Sort of like a backer.
Always, yeah, and that was the deal. Like Colorado still has it. It's called the Colorado Medical Marijuana Caregiver Program, and people can look this up online. Like a lot of people thought it was like dissolved when we went rec. It's not true. It just is hard. Like you got to be legit. You have to be making medicine, and you have to have patients with actual illnesses that write you as their caregiver. And if back in the day, people would kind of
stack caregiver.
Abuse this system very much so. And you'd meet a guy and be like, how many patients do you have? And you're like, I got 3. He's like, well, what's their plant counts? And it's like, oh, just normal, like 30 plants each or something like that. And he'd be like, oh, so you can only grow 90 plants? And it's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, dude, I got like 30 patients and 20 houses. And it's like, whoa, like your head would explode.
Right.
But that wasn't what we were in it for. Our big goal was to be able to grow 12 to 20 like big outdoor monsters.
Okay.
And then help these patients out as far as myself. Because I had seen what people in California could do. And I loved Florida. So like I didn't want to leave Florida permanently. I bought my house there. The recession was kind of making me look for a different route to make income.
Yeah.
I was like, well, maybe I'll try this cannabis thing out. Maybe I'll try to go out to California or Colorado and be a caregiver like my uncle. And at this time, my uncle was like, dude, the dispensaries will take our cannabis. And he had known this guy named Scott. And at the time, Scott's name on all the forums was Moonshine Man. And he had a beard, and he looked like one of the duck hunters from Duck Dynasty. And that guy ended up going on to be Rare Dankness. And he had a dispensary here in Longmont. And that our weed would end up on those shelves occasionally, in like the 2000 and like...
I was going to say long before House of Dankness.
I want to say like 2010...
Wow.
2011, like somewhere in there. Like my uncle had this deal worked out. We were like, people would come out to the western slope, get this really, really good controlled cannabis that he would grow, and only a certain portion of it would go to them, and that money would help pay the bills for those sheds, and it would perpetuate, And
that was all going to RSO at the time?
1/3. So like 1/3 went to RSO. 1/3 went to my uncle, which he would divvy out, whether it would be to like a little bit to his head and a little bit to the dispensary or something like that. And the other third, a lot of these patients wanted to smoke.
Yeah.
So like they would smoke a really high quality cannabis. Like he grew some of it was all organic. He never used any kind of anything except for it had that it's some sort of fish emulsion, but it had that man, I can't remember the name. It's like Poseidon on the front of it. He's kind of holding his little spear.
Okay.
But anyways, he would use that, and only Ocean Forest from Fox Farm, and maybe a couple other things. But he always stressed, like don't use a lot of stuff. Stress the plants. Grow small. Don't grow a lot. Look out for the patients. So when I saw all that, I kind of was captivated because all of my friends in California would talk about cannabis like it was like pies. Grow as many pies as you can, throw down your outdoor, get a bunch of spots. And it was different here. It was like, hey, you're going to go to the state, you're going to get your license, you're going to give them your ID, you're going to get a card. You may have a detective come over to your house and check your plant count. And that was cool. We had this detective in the Cedar Edge area named, his name was like Detective Fedler or Felder. And he'd come to our spot occasionally and look at our plant count outside. Because people would report us, dude. They'd see these monsters behind this fence and be like, these guys are killing it. And
They're obviously up to something.
And we'd get robbed by the neighborhood kids and shit. It's like, what are you going to do? Like, it was always funny because the plants were so big, the stock would be like the size of a 2-liter bottle. And you could tell these kids were not prepared for it. And like our whole goal was growing in these 400 to 200 gallon smart pots.
That's insane.
We'd start them in the greenhouse. Yep. Every year, if you wanted to get them big, you had to start them early. And that was another thing. Like, we'd start all of our plants inside around like March, April time in seeds, and we'd select and stuff like that. We'd have a few clones we'd put out, but for the most part, it was always from seed. And then we'd always go to the Cannabis Cup in Denver. And I always remember after the Cannabis Cup, we would put everything out in the greenhouse. And you would still have to run heaters and fans all the way until like mid-May, because the nights would still get so cool out there on that western slope. Yep. It's that desert air. And it, very windy. It was another reason you had to start in a greenhouse. You couldn't pull them out of the greenhouse until they got to a certain point in flower, because you knew the wind was just going to put dust all over them, So you had to pull them out. We had a 60-foot greenhouse, and we kept our count low. And because of that, we never had issues. But man, we would see black helicopters land on properties all around the area with people that were just going ape shit. And my uncle would tell me, he's like, dude, this area is known for growing cannabis. Like, the western slope of Colorado is like the Mendocino County of California, and no one knows about it. He's like, it's called a banana belt. From Palisade all the way to Paonia is this like little selection of weather. And that's why all the peaches are grown out there. That's why all the grapes and vineyards are grown out there. He's like, think about it, where are all the vineyards in California? Right next to all the weed grows. He's like, that's why we grow out here. So it was really cool to like get that insight, and that was what inspired me to move out here. So right around the end of 2009, I was out here. I had taken my first trip, never looked back. I was like, all right, time to make this work. And the Rare name is an acronym, just like my uncle. Like, he's military, retired, Air Force. He likes acronyms. We were all hanging out one day. He was like, I have my name. You gotta pick your lane. You gotta come up with a name, and your Instagram is resisting arrest, which is like a play on words. It just, for me, growing up and going right into the electrical trade out of high school, it kind of resisting arrest meant always working. Like, it was like a joke. Like, we're not resisting arrest from the cops. We're resisting arrest from ourselves. Like, we just never take a break. Like, resist a rest. Like, not running from the law. And that's why I spell it A-H. Like, it's dorky, but
right.
I'm a dork. So like, we're hanging out on this porch one day. And at this point, like I said earlier, I had not really drank in Florida, but when I moved out to Colorado, all those vineyards around there and stuff like that. So we're hanging out on his porch, cracking a bottle of wine, talking. And he's like, dude, you should go by Rare, R-A-R-E, resisting arrest extracts. Because he knew I was really big on extracts. And at the time, this guy named Grey Wolf had posted online a terp extractor schematic. And it wasn't called a terp extractor at the time. It was called a terpinator. And this was around 2000. Man, this guy, that'd be like 2009, 2010. Because that's, I think, when it was published. And I didn't see it for like a year or two later. Because there was other businesses already, like Bogart and all these other businesses that had seen this schematic openly published and were like, that's my business. So these guys all started building them. And one of the people that built them was Terp Extractors, located out of Fort Collins. And after I had been here in Colorado for a couple of years, watching my uncle do his thing and helping him, and we weren't I thought this is another whole part of it too, which I want people to know. Like when you chase your dreams and you do like really do what you want to do, sometimes the money doesn't come as quick as you think. And like for me, I felt that really hard my first couple of years because like I went from being a full-time electrician who started the apprenticeship program, graduated it, was running my own van, had bought my own house, had a couple cars paid off. Like I was living the life, going to the beaches every weekend,
Had
looking
a
at
small
boats,
home grow, like
oh yeah, everything was perfect. Had
Yeah.
a couple dogs, had a girlfriend. She was going to UNF for her bachelor's program. So when the recession hit me, it hit me really hard, like financially, because I was like, all right, I gotta now sell these cars, saddle up, go somewhere else to figure out income. Because like that was another thing my uncle told me. He's like, dude, you're an electrician. Like everyone needs electrical work out here. Everyone's setting up grows. There's tons of farms. You're never gonna run shortage. He's like, I know tons of people. So as soon as I got to Colorado, I hit the ground running with electrical work. But the Western Slope is not like a rich place financially. It's rich in other ways, but not, man, there's not like these farmers are not like big ballers. So like you go out there and tell them what your hourly rate is, and they're like, no, I'm not going to pay that. And you're like, well, I'm from the city, I'm charging $150 an hour. And they're like, no, I'll pay you $20 an hour and give you a basket of fruit. And it's like, okay, I'll take what I can get, And so I worked at like a chicken farms for like a couple years. I'd go over there really early in the morning, like 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. before the birds were up, and I would pick the nests, and then I'd go over there at night and pick the nests and clean the eggs. And that farm is called Closer to Heaven Farms. That's over in Paonia, up on Redlands Mesa. The owner of that's a really cool dude too. He was a caregiver, had a couple patients. He was all about it. And that was like also when I kind of realized like this is a way of life. Like these people look out for each other out here. There's not a lot in this country. So like it was pretty cool and that was part and parcel of being so many moratoriums. And I'm not sure if like people listening know what a moratorium is, but a moratorium is where a county in a legal state, like say Colorado, boom, passes cannabis legally. These little cities will pass what's called a moratorium, which means we are not allowing cannabis in this county. People who live here can have med cards, but we're not going to sell licenses for dispensaries, for processing, or for grows. Like that is not happening. That's what a moratorium is. And Cedar Edge had one. All Paonia had one. I mean, everyone passed a moratorium on the Western Slopes. It's all what they call cowboy country. So like a lot of these guys out there just didn't want it. They're like, not here. We're not having it. So for us, it was like, man, look out for each other. If you want good cannabis, you got to grow it. And people would start to find out and be like, hey, I'm 60-year-old lady with rheumatoid arthritis. I don't want to grow my own weed. And I got a caregiver. I'm a patient. I'm a medical patient. I heard you're a caregiver. My friend showed me your cannabis. Can you be my caregiver? So you would actually have people contact you, like drive up in your driveway. It was crazy. They'd see your plants. Hey, I need a caregiver. So it was really cool in those early days. That all ended around, I think, 2015. Maybe it's 2014. I want to say 15, but that was like right around when Rec was passed.
And that was right around when you were developing Rare, or when?
Yeah, so my uncle gave me that name, like right there in 2009, 2010. Started talking to guys on the internet to get a logo made. Got a logo made. We put the sticker on damn near everything I fucking could. Charged like never.
Guerrilla marketing 101.
Yeah, man, never run short on branding yourself. And like you said, guerrilla marketing, tattoo everything up with your stickers.
I mean, that's how I knew you lived in town, because when I went to the waste dump, the dumpsters were covered in Rare stickers.
Yeah, I'm trying to lean off of it. I definitely still have like old ways. But yeah, I think it's important. I still don't think like enough people brand themselves. Even if like you were a grower and you wanted people to know that you kill it, like you go to like even these bike rallies, bro, like biker rallies. You know how many bikers smoke cannabis and have cool ass pipes on their bike, like installed on the handlebars and shit? You don't see one vendor up there with a little tent just selling his t-shirts and telling them like, hey, you buy a t-shirt for $25, you get this little
right, the old $100 t-shirt, get a free quarter.
Like you don't see that shit. And it's like, don't discredit your branding and opportunities out there. You'll see Coca-Cola set up these fucking bike meets selling their sugar. Why shouldn't we be up there pumping our flowers, pumping our hash, our RSO? Even if you're not directly doing it, crowd awareness, you know. Some of these companies just giving out stickers, you know, tattooing a stop signs, like from A to Z. There's so many ways to market yourself. I don't think any cannabis brand, unless it's corporate, is trying to like take that opportunity as serious as it could be taken right now.
So you started learning about extraction.
Yeah, so that terpinator, going back to that and going back to the whole thing I was telling you, left Jacksonville, Florida, got to Colorado, and I left behind my girlfriend. So she's kind of a part to the reason why I got to terp extractors in Fort Collins. She gets out here and she graduated from her bachelor's, and she came out a couple times. Like, she'd visit and hang out like every other month and see my grow and shit and be like, this is crazy. Like, you have these patients, you're driving weed around, you're driving hash around. Like, you guys are talking about getting a hash machine. Like, what is this? You bought these trim machines. Like, what is going on? And she's like, I don't really want anything to do with it. Like, it's cool. Like, I like cannabis and shit, but like, I want to get my master's degree. And there's no colleges out here except for Mesa State, which is in Grand Junction. And she wanted to get something in like, at the time, she wanted to get her veterinarian's degree. So she applies for her veterinarian's degree at Fort Collins. She takes all these tests. That GRE is one of them, which is really important and really hard. She gets a certain score on the GRE. Long story short, she doesn't get into the veterinary program, but they reach out and offer her a master's program in microbiology. They're like, you're the perfect candidate for it. We think you kill it. So she's like, hey, this is what I want to do. I was like, no problem. So I talked to my uncle. I'm like, hey, you know, and I had my best friend Eric living out there with me at the time because it was not possible to take care of everything on my own. It was a 60-foot greenhouse with 12 monsters. People think it's a joke. It's so much work, you know, and constant, daily. And from security to maintenance, you know, anyways. She's like, hey, I want to be in Fort Collins. That's where the program is. That's where CSU is going to be offering me my opportunity. I was like, all right, cool. Get with my uncle and Eric. They're like, hey, we can juggle this for a couple, you know, we didn't have like a foresight. It wasn't like we could juggle this for a couple of years or whatever. It was just like, hey, you go to Fort Collins. I was like, all right. Within like a couple of weeks of being in Fort Collins, I went to a grow store, and like, you try to network in the area. And I gave the guy some hash. I was like, hey, this is my name. My name's David. I only do non-solvent. I'm a caregiver. And that was at the time, like, all I did. All I did was non-solvent. I would make live heads. I had entered into like the Secret Cup in
Denver.
Denver, yep. And I can't remember what I placed. It was
With
like,
live heads?
Yeah, it was with live heads. It was Scream, strawberry cream, 73 micron. That would be my hash plant for like a solid year or two. Actually, I take that back. It was Star Killer.
Okay.
Star Killer from Rare Dankness. I washed that and it did really well. It was an outdoor plant. And it just, for some reason, all the other plants weren't ready until like late October. That plant was ready in early August. And I chopped it down, washed some of it. Rest of it went to patients and stuff. That little bit of wash that I got, I smoked for myself and was so good. I was like, I'm going to enter this. So I entered it. I think I got like top 10, within the top 10 or some shit like that, because there wasn't a lot of people even entering it. I remember it was so melty that we were passing it around at a table, and the kid took a dab of it and looked at me and goes, dude, have you ever heard of a de-waxing column? I was like, no, what's that? And he goes, it's a column that'll take out the lipids from the BHF, he goes, from your hash. He goes, if you use the de-waxing column, this shit would be so much more better. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. And I started thinking about it, and I was like,
but this was melt.
That's what I said. I was like, hey man, like, how do you use a de-waxing column like on non-solvent, like when you wash it? And he was like, this is non-solvent? I was like, yeah. He's like, that's fucking crazy. I hit the other guy. He's like, this is non-solvent. And that, I can't remember who that guy was. But yeah, that was down at the grassroots break room. We were all like taking dabs before the competition or whatever. Or I think the competition's location had gotten moved or something along those lines. Yeah, it got moved. I think that was the second series of the Secret Cup, and it got moved down to the Lazy Lion. So that was day one when he had said that. And then on the second day, we had to go down to the Lazy Lion to compete. Something about the venue didn't work out. But yeah, so go up to Denver. Sorry, kind of jumping around here.
So you got introduced to dewaxing as a concept.
Yeah, I didn't even know what it meant. I kind of laughed it off. All I was doing was non-solvent. I met this kid at the grow store, gave him my hash, told him I really wanted to learn how to make BHO, but I didn't know how. And I had seen people open blasting, and I was scared of it.
Okay.
And he was like, dude, you're in Fort Collins. You should go to Terp Extractors. I was like, what's Terp Extractors? And he's like, it's a BHO company. They make closed loops. And I knew what that was.
Okay.
That was what the Terpinator was. It was a closed loop system. So I was like, all right, or whatever that model was called from Grey Wolf online. So go over to Terp Extractors. I don't have any money, not enough to like buy a closed loop. I think they were selling them for like $25,000 or something like that.
Now you can get them for like $1,200 on Amazon.
Yeah. I started sitting on their loading dock, like smoking. I had a joint, and one of the dudes came out. And it wasn't even a loading dock; it was like a garage. And I just drove over there, GPS'd, and it popped up, and I couldn't believe it. Drove over there, smoked a joint outside. Started talking to this dude. His name was Grant. He's like, "Oh, dude, you should meet Austin if you want to like really learn. He's the one who made these." I was like, "Cool, yeah, absolutely." And he was like, "We're doing a class in the next couple of days. I'll ask him if like you can volunteer to help us and you can attend it for free." I was like, "This is crazy." It's like the first time meeting these guys, and they're telling me I can come to a class just because of how I'm interested. And of course, I show up to the class early. They tell me like right when I get there, like, "Hey, don't touch any of the food." I was like, "Okay." No, okay, yeah, no problem, whatever you say. I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm so stoked to be here. It doesn't matter." And like I quickly realized, obviously, there was all of these people from out of state buying their closed loops. And what Austin would do would later be to go deliver them in hand and teach them once again how to run them once he delivered them.
Okay.
But at the initial onset of the purchase, you would come to their lab, you could look at the closed loop, get a demo, decide if you wanted to buy it or not. That's like how prominent these systems were. People would show up from all over in this big warehouse, watch him run, in quotations, lavender. And it would be some crazy dank untrimmed lavender too, like a giant trash bag of it. But yeah, so they would offer me to come and help. They would put on a live demo of these people from all over the country, and everyone would get their insight and decide if they wanted to buy it or not. And everyone bought them, man. And I met a lot of cool guys. There was people like, I believe I saw Otis Dabbs and Royalty Extracts, who were friends of yours, there getting theirs. They were at the class. And like I had told you, like I had followed them on Instagram. I had followed all these guys in the cannabis community on Instagram from the Western Slope, because I'm out there just growing my cannabis as a caregiver, but like seeing online this huge community. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, look at these guys. They're taking dabs. Why they snowboard. Like, this is crazy. And I saw them there. I saw my buddy. It's like one of the first times I had met him. I had met him before, but it's like our second big introduction. Shot by a cop. All these people were there. I was like, dude, like, everyone's getting a closed loop. I'm behind the curve here. So like, I got to figure this out. And I remember like telling my uncle, I was like, you remember you always said RSO could be better, right? And he was like, yeah, it definitely shouldn't be made in a rice cooker. I was like, well, you said Rick Simpson said it could be made better. Like, what if we bought a closed loop and, we made it better? And he's like, okay, yeah, fuck yeah, man. Like, let's figure this out. And that was kind of how it developed. Started making RSO. Didn't have, when we first bought the closed loop, we didn't have a vacuum oven. We had a vacuum chamber. We had to get our vacuum oven, and they were, at the time, the 1.9s were on back order. So I remember I think his name's Tanner or Taylor. He's like the AI guy, that Across International vacuum oven dude, or the Across International rep. We would see him at all the events. The events I'm talking about were like Age. That was how crazy all this was at one point. Like the American Glass American Glass Expo.
Down in Vegas every year.
And they'd do them. They would do another one called Big. They would do them here in Denver.
Yeah.
And so like, you would go down there and it'd be like bong, e-cigarette, across international ovens. It was like clearly obvious what's going on. Like there's some people in this community who are buying this glass that need that scientific equipment.
Right.
And that ended up being us. So we get a couple 1.9 AIs, and we get to make an RSO better. You would think it got much better later on, but
because you were introducing the BHO into that like process.
Yeah. So like we always knew with the alcohol, it would always kind of like turn black, and with the vac ovens you can control the temperature, and with the rice cooker it's just on high or low.
Right.
So like there's not really a temperature controller than that, and you'd always have to run the rice cookers outside because you're literally burning off alcohol.
Right.
You don't want to do that inside. And that was what you were taught. Like back in the day, I don't even know if it's still on there, but you go on YouTube and you type in like DIY RSO. That's what would pop up. It's
well,
like,
and like warm
dudes with
water
rice
baths.
cookers and shit. Exactly. And so, yeah, it was like, hey, we could jack a 5-pound column full of our trim and make this RSO. And that was a whole nother thing. So like, I don't think I went into that with the RSO. So the RSO was never strain specific. It was really important. My uncle mandated that. It was like, hey man, when we make the RSO, it's got to be he would always call it a full spectrum. And I had never really heard that term before. And I later learned like now it's pretty widely abused. Like people call mixed micron and rosin full spectrum hash, which technically it in my opinion should be called mixed micron for a better nomenclature, or just write the micron numbers on there of what's in the jar.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will say, oh, this is full spec. This is full spec. And it's like, okay,
Which means it's 45 to 73 and 120 all the way up.
I'll give you the definition of full spectrum that I was given by these OGs out on the western slope of Colorado when I was 26 years old. Full spectrum has to be grown under a full spectrum of light if we're talking about the light that the plant is grown under. We have two terms for full spectrum that I was given. One for medicine, one for growing. For growing, full spectrum is the ultraviolet rays that you're going to receive only from the sun. The sun is the only thing that provides a full spectrum of wide range UV light. You can imitate it inside, LED, HPS. You could stack them next to each other, what you see a lot of people doing now. It'll be like a whole row of LEDs, whole row of HPS, whole row of LEDs. I run a light in my home grow. I run what's called a 315 CDL. It's got a
CMH?
Yep, CMH in the middle with a LED ring around it.
Okay.
So it's basically a big badass fluorescent with a fucking LED ring around it. Doesn't put off a lot of heat. And yeah, they were made by Boulder Lamp Co. If anybody wants to look them up on the internet. I don't know if they're still an active company. They were actively sold for a long time here in the Boulder area of Colorado. And I had a buddy who worked at Way to Grow. He was like, hey, we can get these lights for cheap. So I'm going to buy a couple of them. And by a couple, I mean a large amount. He was like, and I can kick you a few for like really cheap wholesale price. I was like,
done.
Deal.
Yeah.
So back to the full spectrum thing. Light, like I said, two terms for growing. He would always say full spectrum is the light, and you can't imitate it indoors. You can get close to it. You can get really damn close, and you can produce really good cannabis. But the way it looks indoors and the way it looks outdoors is never going to be the same. It grows differently outside than it grows indoors. And we would see that with strains. We would have strains that we would kill it with inside, and then we'd put them outside under that full stress, and they couldn't handle the light. They wouldn't do as well, or they would be impacted by something like PM or botrytis or something like that, and you'd be like, okay, this plant's too dense to grow outside, but inside under controlled conditions, it loves it. And that's the definition of full spectrum, like given to me by the old schoolers out there on growing. And then for medicine, he would say, full spectrum can't be imitated when it comes to RSO by one individual plant. If you do that, you might as well just call it an isolated extract or name it after the plant. Like, this is Charlotte's Web extract, or this is Star Killer extract. Full plant, full spectrum extract of that strain. Sorry, not full spectrum. Of, what do they call it now? FICO, I think is the term. It's a full plant extract. I can't remember the acronym for it, but he's like, that's cool and it's helpful. You know, when people dial in, like they have these kids that have epilepsy and they're like, hey, Charlotte's Web stops the epilepsy. That's all good and dandy. But what guys will do is like go out of their way to patent that strain and kind of like try to like go after other people that use it for a medicinal resource if they didn't go through those guys and pay the fees or get the special gift of the strain.
The licensing.
And my uncle said, you know, that's never really been the method for a full spectrum extract. RSO has to be full spectrum. It has, and this is what he said, has to be 10 strains minimum. If you're not putting 10 different strains in there, and it can't be like 10 phenos of the same strain, he's like, mix your Bubba Katsu whole plant with your strawberry cough whole plant, with your Star Killer, with your Cantaloupe Hay, all of those strains go together.
Different minors and different terps.
Exactly. And he's like, dude, there's shit. He goes, you look at those tests and it never equals 100%. He's like, where's that other like little bit of other percentage? What is that other stuff? And he's like, whatever it is, the undetectables, he's like, that's what we're trying to create. He's like, the stuff that really is like only made from combining 10 strains. And this could be all hippy dippy shit for sure. But this hippy dippy shit is what we took into our business practice and take very seriously. I don't have many other family members that took me under their wing and taught me how to grow cannabis. And I didn't have any of them that had these crazy patients that they were helping. And that like a lot would go into remission and be better and visit my uncle and thank him and stuff. And when my uncle got sick with terminal 4 cancer, and mind you, he's still here. Like, you can find him on Instagram, Cedarberry Farms. You'll see him commenting on Tom Hill's stuff. You know, he's retired now from growing. He left the Colorado area and he went and bought a pretty big boat up in Washington. And he lives on the boat. Yeah, spring and summer, floats around, catches fish with my cousin, which is his son, my dad's nephew. And he's older, you know, he's retired too. They just kick it. They go into town and party and hang out. And in the winter, they go up to upstate New York where they're all from. And he hangs out with, you know, friends that are still around from high school and college and the military and shit. And sees all of our family. For a lack of better terms, dude, he's living the life.
Yeah, no, that's awesome retirement for a grower for sure. So when did you start, like, because when I met you at City Hall, well, that was what, 16 or 17?
Yeah.
You were doing sauce. Like,
yeah.
You were one of the few people that I knew at the time that was doing like that, like applesauce, small fractal diamond sauce. So how did you get there from RSO?
Yeah. So everything at that point was hold it from the bottom. If it doesn't shatter, it doesn't matter. And we would always all laugh.
Clarity counts.
Yeah, we would always laugh at that out on the Western Slope because at that point we were doing this thing called the burrito tech that we had come up with because we had a couple guys reach out to us and they were like, hey, we have freezers of trim, but it's fresh frozen trim. And we need you guys to turn it into something for us. And we don't know what to do with it. And we're going to throw it away. So it's yours if you want it. And just kick us whatever you want. I was like, all right, it's cool. Let's practice shit. So me and my uncle plotted on it for a while. We're obviously YouTubing shit. I'm bouncing back and forth from the Western Slope to the Front Range terp extractors. And I asked the guys at terp extractors, like, you ever heard of this? Running fresh frozen? And they're like, oh, yeah, you know, there's definitely ways to do it, but it's dangerous because, like, the gas likes the cold temp, so it doesn't like to exit the column. So we were talking about it, I was like, shit, well, you know, why not use, like, a powerful compressed air just to, like, if you fill the column with gas, blast it out really quick. So that was, like, the first trial, and it didn't go well. Like, we didn't, you know, we couldn't, the cannabis thawed by the time we get everything put together and start putting the gas through it, and the gas is warm. So I go to the Secret Cup, and I meet this dude. His name was like, it was like honeybee extracts or bee something. You know, everyone had like a honey or a bee in their extract name back then.
Right.
I can't remember the guy's name. It wasn't Busy Bee. He wasn't even, I had never heard of Boris or Busy Bee at this time. The guy was using a precision extractor. And he told me, He had the craziest hash I ever saw. It was fluorescent yellow. And the shatter that he had was sap. And he told me, if you do it right, you can't get it to shatter because you're going to extract so many vital terpenes that you have monoterpenes and sesquiterpenes. One's water-based, one's oil-based. You're going to extract both of them. And if you want to try to like suck all those off with a vacuum oven, you can. But butane naturally evaporates at room temperature, and there's no covalent bonds with THC or the lipids with butanes, which means butane is not going to attach to this shit. It's not going to carbonate your hash, it's not going to do anything. It's going to eventually reside. There won't be anything left. And like everything this guy was saying, I was like, this dude is a fucking genius. I wish I could remember this guy's name. And they had slop cups. They not slop cups, dabbachinos.
Okay.
And they had an e-nail rigged in their car. And they had driven here from Utah. These dudes are from Utah. They had the craziest live resin sap I had ever fucking seen. And the one dude told me they both had tons of tattoos and shit. The one guy told me, he's like, dude, if you ever want your hash to get better, the rule that we run by is colder. You can't get anything cold enough. Get your gas colder, get your cannabis colder, get everything cold except for your collection pot. And back then there was no jacketed collection vessels. So like we would have a giant cooler full of warm water with 2 sous vides on the ends with a big collection pot in the middle and a 5-pound column coming off the top. And that was how we thought we were supposed to do it, because at the time there was nobody doing any research. There was no like C1 D1s that people were aware of. This was all just go down there, buy this closed loop, and run it. So we start running it. I get back from this we have already been running it, not successful with this fresh frozen. I get back from this event. Also at that event, like I asked those guys, like, how would you run fresh frozen? They were like, oh, we do it all the time. We do what's called burrito tech. We buy dry ice. We crush it up. Back then, like, I didn't even know you could get chelated dry ice, pelletized dry ice, rice dry ice. I had never gone to a dry ice factory. I had never bought metric tons of dry ice. I didn't know anything that I know today. But, like, back then, we would go to the grocery store, buy bricks of dry ice, clean them out, buy all the fucking dry ice. We would go around to different grocery stores to collect it. We'd have so much of it, dude. We figured out ways to keep it stored for longer. Like you buy a big freezer, put the cooler inside the freezer, put the dry ice in the cooler, and lay a blanket on top of it and close it. Because dry ice is a gaseous solid, so it just wants to evaporate. So the lower you expose it to atmosphere, the longer it stays in its gaseous solid state.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my first experience buying dry ice like that was crashing out jars, from...
Oh, yeah, BHO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
So you were wrapping columns.
We'd lay all the crushed dry ice on a tarp, put the column on top of it, and roll it like a doobie. And keep the dry ice in there, and use zip ties or bungee cables, or another thing we used was hose clamps on each end. And you'd put it up there and blast all of your cold ass butane through there, and you'd wait forever for all this to occur because it was all freezing cold. And then you would unhook your butane. We'd be doing this outside because you'd see fucking gas leaking. And then we had an air compressor, and we'd hit the fucking column with the air compressor and blast all of the fucking butane out of that column. And you'd watch the liquid gas come. You'd be looking through your sight glass down into the collection pot. You'd see all your liquid gas come through, and then it'd just be that vapor, that hot air coming through, and you'd be like, all right, we're done. Pull the column off. Get the next one ready.
Yeah.
And you asked how we came up with the live sauce. That's what this story is. So we did that. We take the sauce.
And you were doing all of this just to make RSO.
Just to figure out, yeah, in theory, that was what we wanted to do. And yeah, until this happened. And I hadn't seen it yet, dude. Like, I had seen it, but I hadn't known how to do it. So I was dabbing and buying hash from a dispensary called The Clinic.
Yeah.
And The Clinic had this cut called Kosher Kush, and I was in love with it. And I would buy Kosher Kush, the 24K cut from DNA, And I loved it. I knew it. It was that Amsterdam familiarity. I was like, this is the shit I've been looking for. And they sold it in BHO form. And I was buying BHO and bowl topping with it. I didn't have a rig yet. A lot of the stuff that I, like even with my full melt, I would bowl top. And I would take a glass. So this is funny. I would go to different liquor stores and buy glass stirring rods. And I would blowtorch the end of the glass stirring rod. And after doing it like 3 times, the glass stirring rod will shatter or crack and you have to throw it away. That's why I would buy them in bulk. But I would blast this fucking thing with a glass stirring rod. And if I did, this is if I was out in the field. If I was at home, I had what was called a Fedor. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it was sold by TH Seeds, Adam Dunn and those guys, who also sold the hemp hood lambs.
Okay.
I bought it in Amsterdam when I bought my first hemp hood lamb. And it looks like a little matchbox, and it has a white stick coming out that gets glowing red hot. And now the equivalent is called the herb iron.
Okay.
I'm sure you've seen those.
Yeah, I've seen.
So I had a Fedor in like 2004, 2005. Well, it had to be 2006, actually. So that was the first Amsterdam trip. So yeah.
Just like flameless bowl top.
I'd plug it in. Dude, my coffee table was destroyed in my house in Florida from it. Because I forget. Oh, yeah. The carpet, too, had marks in it. But we got out here, and that was how we smoked our non-solvent. Bowl topping with the glass rod or Fedor. So I'm trying to figure out how to make... We do go back to this live resin story. We blast all this fresh frozen. We pour it all out, and it is fluorescent. It's the brightest hash that we've ever pulled out of our column. All the other hash has been like amber colored, and which for us was tremendous for RSO, because all the RSO prior to that was just like crude black. So like we had no problem with any of our patients accepting the quality of the RSO. And when my uncle got sick with his cancer, that was the RSO that I used, derived from BHO. This is different. This live resin, which we didn't even know it was called live resin. We just called it fresh frozen blast. Like we just blasted fresh frozen successfully, score, pour it out, go to sleep, wake up the next day, look at the parchment boat, and it is fully crystallized, the whole fucking slab. And I was like, yo, what is this? I don't know what to do. I'm going to fucking jar it all up. So I throw it all in one big fat jar. And like I said, I don't even have a rig at this point. And I took photos of it. I posted online, and I immediately have people start hitting me up. They're like, hey, what's the deal on this? Like, what's the protocol? How'd you do it? What's the procedure? Like, what's your tech? Is what everyone said back then. What's the tech? I was like, I just blasted fresh frozen. And they were like, oh, did you use an Emotech? I was like, no, I didn't use an Emotech. What is that? They're like, that's a closed loop that's made for blasting fresh frozen that these 2 guys, Giddy Up and Kai and Bill, use. And they're the only 2 guys who can blast fresh frozen because they use an Emotech that Giddy Up made. And I was like, well, shit, like, I sure as fuck didn't use that, because I Googled it and it was like $35,000. I was like, nope. Didn't. I would love to lie, but I can't even like act like I have that lie. Like, so I was like, nah, man, I can't divulge exactly how I did it, but I did it with a terp extractor at MK4, or is it MK3? It's a little guy. He's like, you're fucking kidding me, you know? And I go back to terp extractors because I'm kind of like freaking out at this point. And I show them, I'm like, check this out. Look how bright it is. Look what I did. It's all crystal. I've never seen this. It's fucking crazy. And they're like, well, that looks like, and they say the same thing. That looks like live resin that Giddy Up and Kai and Bill do. And I was like, oh, where do they sell their hash? And they're like, at the clinic. The clinic sells it. Everyone sells it. And I was like, this all checks out.
Right.
I was like, shit, I knew it looked like that stuff I was paying $65 a gram for. So I go to my uncle. I'm like, hey, you know, maybe this one's not RSO. It didn't fucking, because like we had our oven set to 140, 150.
Okay.
And we wouldn't pull vacuum on them back then when we were making RSO. We would just do the pour out and put the beaker in there, because the first time we pulled vacuum on it, it exploded everywhere in the oven. It muffined everywhere.
Oh shit.
My uncle's like, God damn it. You know, and I'm like, fuck me, man. What did we do wrong? Yeah. And my partner's sitting there like, geez, dude, this is crazy. Yeah. So we're all trying to figure it out. And he was like, how about we just don't do that from now on? And all the RSO would come out good, and you'd wait forever for it to decarb. And you would occasionally see it crystallize up in the beaker, but the next day the crystals would start to go away. You know, it would continue to decarb. Not like this live resin, dude. Within 24 hours, the whole slab was crystallized at like 140. And I was like, all right, cool. We're going to dry this immediately, and we're going to go around and ask all the homies about it.
Because that's pretty high, right? Like, it's been
Very
a while
much so.
Yeah.
Like, nobody that I knew was in those temps. Everyone was like
104, 105.
80s. Yeah, because like all these guys were like low to preserve the terps. And I was like, fuck them terps, dog. This is medicinal. Like, we're just trying to fucking make this stuff for the patients. We're actually trying to help these guys out. And that was kind of like the first quandary too, where we were like, all right, this went so well that like how do we do it again? Because I don't have anything fresh resin.
Right.
My uncle doesn't have. We have 2 freezers full of dry trim from last year that we're supposed to use for RSO that we haven't. This is a lot of work. Like, we're gonna make it. It's on the list of things to do, but like,
right.
We kind of got like a little like eager to learn how to do this fresh frozen thing. So like we whack it, knock it out, and like at that point, my uncle's kind of like, dude, like you're kind of on your own with this thing. Like, all I wanted to do was non-solvent shit. I wanted to help patients. I'm like, my uncle would wash occasionally as well. He was like, he liked to smoke non-solvent. He was a bowl puffer, so he'd bowl top as well. But he was like, you're kind of on your own endeavor with this thing. Like, you're an extractor at this point, and I'm a breeder. I'm a seed guy. I make seed. He's like, so like, you have to kind of label yourself in this industry as what you are, and like, you should take the hat. Like, you should wear the extractor hat. And that was kind of like in the same conversation of where Rare came from, and like the name, like RARExtracts. Okay. It was like resisting arrest extracts. That's rare. You're rare. That's easy for you. It's a 4-letter thing, rolls off the tongue. It's like, all right. So back to showing all the guys the live resin. They all compared it to the high quality stuff in the market. And yeah, man, the ball started rolling pretty heavily. There was only a few people in the area that were able to process people's fresh frozen into something that looked like that. And as you know, like, when you're producing something that not a lot of other people are producing, you become in high demand. We became in high demand pretty quickly, and it got rapid, really rapid, to the point where, like, I've never dealt with that before. Like, we had, like, I don't know if you know about like some of the things that made the brand pop, but like one of the first things was like there was a guy, DJ for Jody High Roller, who is, what's his name? Man, I can't remember his name.
I know.
He's a rapper.
Yeah.
So, that guy, his DJ came to Cannabis Cup, and if you've ever been to Cannabis Cup, the hour before the event opens, they let in Riff Raff. They let in the VIPs. So Riff Raff and his DJ are walking around, and all these other guys, and they're being escorted by the Lion 710, who owns the cannabis club that I had mentioned previously that the Secret Cup was moved to.
The Lazy Lion.
The Lazy Lion. And that guy knew me. He saw my booth. He was like, there's RARExtracts. We had a Cannabis Cup booth. We had competed that year with the Strawberry Cream 73 micron. We competed against Trichome Extracts.
So you were still doing live heads?
Oh, yeah. Still doing non-solvent, still running my closed loop right next to it.
Still making RSOs.
Yeah.
That sort of.
And the way we would do non-solvent back then, dude, is we'd wait for a really cold day. We'd do it in our garage. Like, my uncle, we never washed in the summer. And they didn't even know. They would just always say the hash comes out better when you wash when it's cold, and you don't got to use as much ice. Ice lasts longer. So we were just being cheap, and like the hash would always come out fire. And it was like, all right, cool. Like, and we would make, like, we had fridges in the sheds that were specifically to store all the hash for the year. So you would grow these 12 plants outside that were massive. You wash a bunch of it or blast a bunch of it. And you had so much hash you didn't really know what to do with, and you're not going to consume it all. So you'd stuff it all into the fridge and the freezers and mason jars. And when these events would come, it'd be like, all right, perfect. Capitalization. Let's go into the stock and see what we got that's worth fighting, with putting up a fight against these other brands and these other grows. And we would never tell everybody it was outdoor. Like, never. Yeah. That was all the stuff we would compete with because it was the only shit we had in bulk. And I remember we pulled out this jar of Strawberry Cream that was just like white beach sand. He's like, yeah. I was like, yep, that'll do it. Let's do it. So entered that, and we entered rosin, and the 73 micron and the rosin we entered.
This was like hair straightener rosin, or
it was hair straightener rosin, dude. Like, this is so crazy. I would get hired by people, not hired, but back then you'd call it hired. People would call you and be like, hey, I just got done trimming. I heard you make rosin. This is so early on, like 2016, 2015. Heard you make rosin. I have 1 pound of sift from all of our trim bins. Will you come over and press it for me, or I'll come bring it to you and you can give me my A and you take, or back then it was always 70/30 on everything. 70/30, 70/30. So I would go to people's houses, press their heads or press their trim bin
Yeah.
with a, want to know what I would use?
Yeah. Tell me.
I would go to Hobby Lobby and I would buy silk screen for t-shirts.
Okay.
And I would just double wrap with a silk screen. I'd cut my little squares, sprinkle their hash in there. And people would look at me crazy, bro. I'd put that hair straightener in between parchment with the hash in the middle and put it on the floor on this little rubber mat I had, and I'd stand on it. And it would just fucking juice everywhere because I'd use such a big piece of parchment. Oops, sorry, I hit the mic. I remember this kid. I was doing it at a buddy's house. He hired me to come, or asked me to come over and do it. So I go over there and I'm doing it in the most cheap way. And the hash would always be fire, unless the heads and shit sucked. I'm doing it in front of this kid. His name is Brett. He came out here from University of Florida with his chemistry degree, and he was making distillate at Helix Labs at the time. And he saw me do it, and he goes, "Jesus Christ, that's sanitary." I was like, "Yeah, you're right. It's horrible. Like, it's probably not the best." And yeah, we didn't do that for long. That only lasted a couple months as far as like.
But you were entering it still.
Let's say, yeah, the stuff I entered, I'd never fucking put on the floor and press with my feet. But I would go to people's houses and like, because like I couldn't get the pressure, and I always noticed like if it wasn't a high micron, like if I put 73 micron or 90 micron or 120 micron into that, and it depended on the strain, into that little resin tea bag thing that I would make and squeeze it with barely any hand pressure, it would juice everywhere. But then I'd go to people's houses with trim bin stuff, and like that trim bin shit, dude, you really had to put some torque on it to get it to juice just a little bit. It wasn't
just heads.
Nah, yeah, it was not just heads. A lot of fat, a lot of trim mixed in there, hairs, capitated stalks, exactly. So yeah, so at the same time, like you said, and like I was saying about like, the kind of blowing up with demand thing when it came to being only one of the few people that was making live resin sauce in the area. That guy, Trapzilla was his DJ, comes by our booth with the Lazy Lion, literally, dude, buys us out of our whole stock of, and back then you would call it donating. So he donated to RARExtracts. We accepted a medical donation from Trapzilla, and in return he received for his donation almost all of our stock for the day. It was crazy. And he didn't do it to anyone else's booth. They came right to us and were like, "We heard you were hot shit." So within a week or two of the Cannabis Cup ending, Adam Ill, I don't know if people know who Adam Ill is, but he's like this Getting High With is his podcast, I think.
Yeah, and his
YouTube channel. Yeah, Getting High With. His logo's his face. I mean, he's a very famous guy in the cannabis community. He hosts tons of events.
He ran the LA Marathon while smoking backwoods.
Fuck yeah. That sounds like Adam Ill, man. Yeah, props, bro. I love that guy. He has a catchphrase. He goes, "What? What?" If you show him like some really good fire, like some fire hash that you made or something you grew, he'd be like, "What? You grew this?" I'm like, "Yeah, man." So he showed us a lot of love as well. He came by and he was like, "Hey, man, Trapzilla told me about you. I'm friends with him. I'm doing a live podcast open call thing. Call in. I'm going to have you call in. I'll DM your Instagram. We'll connect. We'll tap in, and I'll have you call in on the show this upcoming week." So I don't know if that's still up online, but there's an interview with Adam Ill and Trapzilla. It might be on the Rare page or on my personal page. But he asks us to call in. He's like, "Call in and explain to me what that hash was that you pressed. I want to know what it is." So we called in and talked about rosin for like 10 minutes on his show. And you can hear them talking about it. I think that was the first surge in social media, and a lot of people in the Denver area noticed and started reaching out. And we're like, "Hey, man, I'd like to collaborate or work together." And then the second one, we started working with this dude, and weren't really working with him. We just knew him in the community, and he was friends with Action Bronson. And he got our hash, and Action Bronson came here for the High Times 420 situation. I think 2017 or 18. Yeah, it had to be 17 because it had to be 17. And we were staying downtown at this event. We were in the event was down in the floor of this hotel, and we had gotten a room up top. There's a glass show. Can't remember the name of the event. He came through, and they got a photo with him holding our hash up, and that was like the other big surge. And by surge, like, I mean, try to explain it. Like, a good example is like I don't know if a lot of people understand this, but like you can only accept 300 to 500 followers a day on Instagram. Oh, yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, I had to find that out the hard way. If you're private, okay. If you're public, you just keep hitting refresh. Yeah. And your number will just keep going brink, 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 brink. And that was the first time that happened. We went from like 3,000 or 4,000 for followers when Trapzilla and Riff Raff came through to like 5 or 6. Then the Adam Mill thing got us up to around like maybe 10,000, 8,000 followers. And then the Action Bronson thing, dude, it was crazy. It took us like a year because we were a private account to finally catch up to the follower requests. And we got up to like 21,000 followers on the RARExtracts page. And we were fucking stoked. It was like private. Not a lot of people knew about it. Like if you knew, you knew. And it coincided. Like my uncle never predicted that. Like it was never like, oh, this really hard to get your hands on hash in Colorado is rare. You know, we just called it rare because it was like resisting arrest extracts. It sounds funny. It's an acronym. Right. Just like Cedarberry Farm, CBF. But so things started taking off for a couple of years. I was at that Secret Cup. I don't think I entered, but I was friends with the people that put it on, and I was asked to come vend. Okay. I think Adam Mill was one of the, I think he was there. He was the host.
Well, because it was the first
Ken
time
James
they had brought,
was there.
Yeah, Secret Sesh.
TNT was
Kirk
upstairs selling medicated
Stone
donuts.
Sweets.
Yep, Stone Sweets. Selling those fat cherry gummies, medicated, those gummy bears, all the different flavors.
Man, they had no idea. Like, they had no idea what they were getting into. It was a Cali event in Colorado.
It was crazy. We need to have more of those these days, but you don't, the med shut those down.
Yeah,
So
the first time they saw that go down, they were like, wait a minute, we didn't realize there's going to be smoking and vending, and none of these people were licensees in Colorado.
I think it came in the face of recreational enforcement as well. Like, I think prior to that, there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on. I know, I was a part of it.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't have...
But you had to be in the know.
Bro, I didn't have a cannabis license. I was a medical caregiver, and I called the High Times, and I was like, hey, do I need a license to get a booth at the Cannabis Cup? And they were like, fuck no, dude, $4,000. I was like, well, I don't have that. So I reached out to this dude, Evan, Bear Mountain Studios, and Fox Tracks. I was like, hey, you sell CBD shit? You sell fucking glass? I sell hash. Oh, yeah, and Wonka.
Fuck yeah.
Me and Wonka did an edible collaboration with that non-solvent rosin. We made we called them Neapolitan peanut butter cups. So it was one chocolate peanut butter cup, one strawberry peanut butter cup, one vanilla peanut butter cup, all medicated with 25 milligrams. And they came in a little sleeve, like a little Reese's thing. And they were cool, dude. We should have done better, but we were competing against edibles like Toast Your Own S'mores Top Pudding Cup and do you remember Sacred Sweets?
No.
He would do all these cool edibles that he would infuse with gemstones, and he put out ice pops with trichome heavy extracts, and I think that's who it was, Ken Wall and Jibs.
Okay.
And maybe it wasn't trichome heavy, I can't remember. But anyways, we were competing against guys like that. He had like a ice pop that was like grape purple amethyst infused with grape ape hash rosin. I was like, that stuff's fire. Like,
you're like, no, yeah. Like this is.
It was something along those lines. Those guys have crazy, brilliant minds, and like they just killed it. So me and Wonka didn't win, but he was vending at my booth. So it was 4 of us, and we split the tab for the 4K 4 ways. If anyone's listening to this and they're in a state that has an event coming up, don't ever sell yourself short on collaborating with other brands that are in different markets. Like if it's one of your friends that makes tie-dye t-shirts and he's never been to one of those events. Maybe he can cash out,
or if he
candles
does flour
or some
and
shit.
you do hash.
Yeah. So edibles, glass, me with the rosin and the BHO, and RARExtracts. I had helped him process his cannabis cup entry, which he won with me and Jason Margoles. So this is a crazy story. No one's ever heard this story before publicly, and I'll tell it really quick. So RARExtracts got first place on the Cannabis Cup here in Colorado with his, I don't remember what the strain name was. I don't know if it was Harlequin or some shit like that. But I'll tell you how we won. I started getting my stuff tested here in Colorado by this kid named Nathan Tuesday. And this kid was kind of trippy, bro. Like, you go up into his lab and he have a HPLC, which is like a couple $100,000 analytic machine testing cannabis samples for the industry. And he'd be like, oh yeah, I do patient samples on the side, especially caregivers. And if you want to take dabs in here, we can fucking take dabs under my hood vent over there. And he'd turn on his hood vent. Like, he had this like a scientific hood vent that you stick your head in and blow out. And we'd be in like a commercial high rise and he's doing this shit in like a little rented business room. And he started explaining to me controls. And for anybody who's out there, like in a scientific setting, who has a job doing research or analytics or testing, when I say the word control, you know exactly what I mean. So like, a control is something to test against. So if I tell you the color black is black, how do you know what black is unless you have true black to test it against? And it's the same with anything else in life. And that might be a rough analogy for somebody to understand, but like, here's a better one. If I tell you that my cannabis is 100% THC, how do you know unless you test it against 100% THC? So we're in his lab testing shit and we're talking, getting high. And he goes, see these are all of my controls and they all cost a lot of money. And I go, so let me get this straight. That's a little crystal and it melts down in that machine and it's 100% THC in that little crystal right there. Testably detectable THC. And that stuff you're testing it against, like, you're going to find out its potency. And he goes, absolutely. And I go, what's to stop somebody from taking one of those little vials and dumping it into a fucking collection pot and dumping their hash in there on top of it? And he goes, oh, it would test off the fucking charts. The HPLC thing would almost test it 99% pure, if not pure. And I was like, how much for CBD control? And he was like, well, my controls are expensive. They're scientific controls. They're like $100 a gram. I was like, how much is in each vial? He's like, 3 grams. I was like, how much for an ounce? And he was like, oh, dude, that's expensive. I was like, you know, back then, like, things are going well. I was like, well, how expensive are we talking about?
$1,200 an ounce. I mean,
so he's like, I can get you an ounce for cheap. Like, if you buy that much of it and you need that much, like, we can get it cheap. We can get a couple $100, like shy of 1,000 or whatever. I was like, run it. So we get the ounce. I'm supposed to blast it in my closed loop. RARExtracts is being a little weird about getting the material up to Fort Collins to blast it. Because like back then I'd run shit all over the place. I had a couple friends that had a couple different locations and labs set up. Hey man, can I bring my closed loop over and run it in your lab or in your warehouse or in your garage? Like, yeah, dude, come over. So he comes up, he's like, hey man, I don't have the material, but give me the control. I'm going to go down and I'm going to get this ran by your friend and my friend, Jason Margoles. He runs live resin. He has a lot of Emotech he runs. We'll do exactly what you said. We'll just dump it in the collection pot and we'll run it on top of it. I was like, okay, deal. So this is my hand in the collaboration. It was supposed to be just me and RARExtracts. They run it, they enter it, it gets tested. It has the highest CBD. It wins that, and then it gets used in Schumett bars, banana pudding, chocolate edible. Highest CBD, that one wins too. So like, that's how we fucking cashed out on that cup. Yeah, we had like really good cannabis, and yeah, everyone who was in it was like a really good extractor, but we dumped just shy of like, I think it wasn't a full ounce. It was like maybe just shy of a half ounce once it was all said and done, I think is what we were able to get and what I could afford.
But essentially like pure CBD isolate.
Yeah, pure isolate, bro. And no one had isolate back then. Nobody. And yeah, killed it. Fucking made RARExtracts Day. I didn't win anything. I didn't go on stage. So like it wasn't my award to accept. But I was really stoked to help the homies out. And if anyone's looking to jack up their concentrate level in any of their products, you can buy CBD isolate, CBG isolate for cheap, and it's legal to be sent through the U.S. mail, through the U.S. Hemp Act. I should know because in our lab in Oklahoma, we've processed hemp for other labs that we've received in the mail and have sent out the concentrate back out and had it marked. It says it on there. This is U.S. hemp.
Yeah.
As long as it's all labeled and you print out the stuff online that's supposed to be on there and you lay it inside the box, you're on the up and up. You're not doing anything wrong, but it's got to be no THC, pure hemp. But yeah, that's how, and if you, like I said, if you ever want to jack your levels up, that's how you do it. So, yeah, that was kind of how we got our momentum here in Colorado, those events, the Action Bronson shout out, social media group, 2018 hit. We wanted to go get a license to keep processing. Couldn't figure out how to do
Here
it.
in Colorado.
Yeah, I was looking viciously. I had decided I didn't want to grow on the Western Slope anymore. They had made the caregiver situation a lot more harder to participate in after rec had passed. And I was like, and my uncle didn't want to be out there anymore. It's a very isolated area. My wife didn't want to live out there, or my future wife. She's my fiance at the time. I was like, all right, it's obvious. The writing's on the wall. Transition. Don't be ever scared of that next step in life. Like, move forward. So move forward. Went out to, like I said, was already partially in the Front Range, but started really pursuing a license and realized how hard it was to get a processing license in Colorado. So if anybody is like at home listening that wants to pursue a future endeavor in cannabis, the way that a lot of these licenses work is they're contingent to a real estate property. So like it's rare that a license will just float on its own. It's not how it works. A license will be attached to a property. So when you go to get a license, you either have to prepare that property for that license, or you get that license with that property and then go through all the things that are required to either update that property to code so the license can be operable, or you already purchase it with it all together. Like they call it turnkey. So you'll go in and they'll be like, all right, here's all the stuff. It's all ready to run, rock and roll. Here's your keys. So all the licenses here in Colorado, in a lot of the Denver metro area and the residing outside areas, from what I was explained by many of the license owners, were sold for $60,000. That was the license cost.
Just for the license. Just
for the piece of paper. Now you have to go and find an area like a warehouse and apply for that license. And then they'll say, okay, that license is attached to that warehouse. It has to be a commercial or industrial zone space, depending on the license. If it's a dispensary license, they'll say, oh, it's got to be commercially zoned and not within so many yards of a school or a church or whatever they call it, the authority having jurisdiction, which is the county that it's located within. That's your authority having jurisdiction. Your fire marshals, everyone who is operating in that county overhead of you. So you want to get your certificate of occupation, your certificate of good standing, your fire marshal inspections. All of these things are required for that license to be operatable. And then the final part of all that is you get what's called a narcotics control number from the DEA. All of that sounded incredibly intimidating here in Colorado. Starting off with the 60,000.
Yeah.
And then a lot of these here in Colorado, the processing facilities would be in industrial zoned areas. And I'm not sure if anyone's familiar, but like generally industrial zoned areas, you would think the rent is cheaper, but it's not. Like to rent a big warehouse is like thousands of dollars a month. Like $3,000 to $6,000 a month is what you're going to look at for rent generally for an industrial warehouse that's around 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. And that's generally what you need. And so we were kind of intimidated here, and I started researching online other states that were going legal. Oklahoma was on the board. They had just passed it. It was taking a year for it to go through, and by the beginning of 2018, it would start.
They just opened the floodgates for licenses.
Licenses were $2,500.
For an extraction license as well? All of them.
So they only offered 4. One was, 3 at the time. Now they do offer 4, and they offer them in tiers now. But back then there was no tiers, and there was no plant counts, and there was nothing but square. There was no square foot driver's limit.
License, is my understanding.
Nothing. Yeah. And the location had to be industrial or commercially zoned depending on. So if you had $2,500 and enough in a lot of these places, so like commercial and industrial, they make their nut not off of how successful your business is, but off of requiring you to pay 1 to 2 years up front in rent. And again, intimidating for a lot of people. It's like, oh, $3,000 for 2 years up front in rent. That here we go again with that $60,000 to $70,000 bullshit. Just to start my shit up, I have all the equipment. Like, I just want to fucking get down there and locate. To put it. Yeah, so go down. I kind of go down there and start working, and I put up my flag, and I'm like, "Who is there? Anybody down here who wants a partner?" And this guy reached out, was like, "Hey, man, my name's Greg. I want to get into processing. I work at a grow right now, and I don't want to work at this grow forever. I have some money saved up. My family has land. I live here in Tulsa. I see you're down in OKC. Why don't you come up here to Tulsa and check it out?" So I went up to Tulsa, checked it out. Me and Greg went out, for dinner one night and kind of laid it all out and was like, this is what I need. I'm not business savvy. If we were in Colorado, I have momentum there. I have a reputation. I could easily sell product there. But I'm new here and I don't know anyone here and I need somebody who does. And he's like, oh, dude, easy. A lot of my friends are buying dispensary licenses. I already sell a lot of flower to the ones who already have them. I have a network. I was born and raised here and I graduated from college here. So like I was in a frat. A lot of my frat brothers are, like I said, opening dispensaries. So like should be fairly easy.
Have a distribution channel already sort of set up.
And he was like, I was previously a landman in oil, so I'm good with paperwork. He's like, I'll take care of the metric stuff. And metric hadn't passed yet, but we knew it was coming.
Right.
So like that was part of our conversation. I was like, hey, it's going to be easier for us to get established, but then the next 4 to 5 years is going to be really difficult. And if we can outlast a lot of other people within that 4 to 5 year thing, we're going to be pretty good. It'll be smooth sailing from there. He was like, all right, cool. And it worked. Everything worked. Got the lab set up. It took about 8 months to get everything set up.
From like got the license to, hey, we actually have product available on market.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just 8 months of burn.
Burn, dude. It was the worst. Waiting on fire marshals, waiting on different pieces of equipment, waiting on the county. It's Oklahoma. So like, I remember one of the things, we weren't getting a response on the certificate of occupancy. And when he went up there to ask about it, they were like, oh yeah, it's on its way and whatnot. We're on it. And, we're also doing like a charity thing this weekend, if you guys want to come to that. And I was like, we're going to that shit. Like, let's go donate. Let's go eat whatever. What is it? He's like, it's a charity dinner. It's like $200 a plate. I was like, buy 2. Let's do it, dude. Let's go buy 2 plates. So me and him went, and like within a month later, the certificate of occupancy was done. I was like, sweet. And it was all through the holidays. So like it kind of worked out. Maybe 5 months. I'd say we found the place around like October. And by like February, March-ish, we had product ready.
Okay.
Then within 2 years, they established an entity called... So within 2 years, the Oklahoma medical marijuana market, if nobody's familiar...
Well, you were... And even before that, like, so you were producing live resin and RSO on market from the jump?
And SHO, yeah.
And SHO,
So we first started with SHO. So there's a cool grow called Jive. And if anybody like...
I remember your
is
Jive
aware of
collabs.
Jive. They're in Oklahoma. They grow really good cannabis, and they reached out and they were like, "Hey, we saw that you guys are setting up shop," because I was active with social media, and we had a lot of followers. So like a lot of people wanted to work with us. And Jive was one of them. And they go, "We have a processing license, and we know that you're waiting on your stuff to be ready." And like I said, it's winter. It's the holidays. And they're like, is there any way that we could work out a collaboration for non-solvent, like while you're waiting on your stuff, and you could process here at our place? And I was like, do you have a cold room? And he was like, well, we have a drying room that can get down to 50 degrees to 40 degrees, and it has a lot of air and shit. And I was like, bingo.
Yeah.
So we go over there, and I create what's called the mobile rare SHO platform. I go and snag a pallet. I put 4 casters on the bottom of it. I put plastic decking on the top of it. I sit my freeze dryer on top of that. I make I think it's like 100 foot to 150 foot extension cord, a 20 amp, 125 volt, because that's what the freeze dryer is. And their dedicated plug is like all the way in another room underneath one of their panels. We run that cord. And we take the Sasquatch and sit it on top of that freeze dryer. And then I have a bruteless that's on casters as well, or a brute. I think it's like a 32 gallon or what are they, 50 gallon?
Yeah, 32 or 55. Or...
Yeah, I think it's the medium one, the 32. And we hand wash, pull bags, and dump. We have the hose go directly outside, freeze dry there at their place, pull out, press there at their place, package there at their place, and print the stickers at Greg's house. And this is like how loose and lenient the Oklahoma market is at the time. No inspections needed, nothing like that. Like, it goes in for testing, it passes testing, and goes out. So we did a couple strains like that. They were their in-house collabs that we just, I mean, not a lot of people know the history behind that, but yeah, we made all that hash, those first like 10 strain collabs through the winter while we were waiting on our license and our facility to be approved in Jive's dry curing facility. And one of the days when it got really cold, we were able to open up their garage, and like it felt like old times. We were like washing right there while like it was like, you know, raining and sleeting outside. But SHO at first, get to the lab opening, and there is absolutely no thought of RSO. I did not plan on bringing it to the Oklahoma market. I wanted to later down the line for integral reasons, but not as an initial introduction product. I really wanted to build a bunch of savings for the business, and I wanted to do what a lot of other people were doing, and that was sell live resin.
Right.
So us and Jive got to it. We started killing it. And I didn't know at the time, and I'm like, I later did become familiar with it, and we'll get to that. And that has a lot to do with why I did bring the RSO in. But we started knocking out a bunch of live resin for a bunch of grows. We didn't turn anyone down. If you had a freezer, we would take it. And I was working like a mule, dude. And I just wanted to get the company savings up. And we did. We got it up. Like, things were going great. And within 2 years, the price nosedived. It went from $35 a gram in Oklahoma to, dude, like $5 a gram.
Retail.
And like, people are telling us, you got to wholesale it to us. And this is the thing. Wholesale is not a word that we were told. Yes, it's wholesale, but what we were told is a valuable term that everyone should get to know if they go into the retail market. The phrase is called keystoning. We were not familiar with what keystoning was or what keystone was. And what keystoning is where they take your product and they have to sell it for double. So they say any product we buy, we have to keystone. And we sell our hash for $5 a gram. So what that means is a nice way of them telling you we have to get your hash for $2.50 a gram or less. And so that's when we brought the RSO in. I was like, hey man, like, I told my partner, I was like, the only thing I know that I can make in bulk that we can sell for that kind of a price that I think it's like should be sold for that cheap is RSO. RSO, I don't think it's ever been cheap enough. And let's do it. You know,
and it's hard to access. I mean, even in Colorado these days.
And he's like, dude, let's do it. We got to figure out a way to stay afloat. And we got to, you know, you said you wanted to bring it eventually. Like, it's time. Like, now's time as best as any. I was like, all right, cool. So we start figuring out how to bring it into the market. And, we just bring it in small portions.
Was there a market for it? Like,
no one was demanding it.
Okay.
We just, like I said, small portions. So like, we would get these freezers from people. We'd be like, hey, we're fine with making your BHO and you selling it, because we did splits. So they would go and take their shit and sell it for dirt cheap. And we would see our hash on the shelves for dirt cheap and have no control over it. We'd have our friends telling us, like, set MSRPs, go after these people, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, like, we're still all over the place. We're all over weed maps. Like, we just need to keep Rare going. Like, the vision is to just keep the fucking shit pumping out the door. So we make the first batch of RSO. We only made a couple thousand grams, and it sold, like, we were sold out within a couple days. And I was like, all right, we got something here. Like, no one else is making RSO like this. And this goes back to the initial onset of the BHO descent. The reason BHO started to descend so much is because of this terminology, CRC, and a lot of people don't know what that stands for. It's concentrate remediation, or there's a bunch of acronyms for it.
It's a color remediation.
Color remediation cartridges are the pre-made ones.
Okay.
Color remediation concentrate is the term for any hash that's made that comes through color remediation.
Okay.
So like, we would just, broad term for us extractors is color remediation, CR, but like then people started saying CRC.
Yeah.
Color remediation concentrate. And Jive killed it. They would put out such good fire that we would run it and people would tell us, you see our seeds are hash. And I was like, no, like what we did do is run critically negative temperatures on our BHO and our column, and that's why it looks insanely
because the
light
color
colored.
allows you to take darker hash.
Oh, dude, you strip all the plant fats, all the chlorophyll out. And this goes back, if you guys remember, if anyone's, thinking about what I said earlier and can already know where I'm going, my uncle used to always say, hey, the RSO can be better. It should be better. Like, there's no, and this is something he said, man, like there's no medicinal facts that burnt chlorophyll and burnt plant fats are beneficial for you. Show me anywhere where it says roasted plant fats and roasted chlorophyll are good for you. Those are carcinogens. They are not good for you. And I couldn't help but to agree,
But you just accept it because
people say
that
it.
was the...
Oh, did you go on Reddit? Like if you, they might have been tore down now, but like there's RARExtracts, rare RSO Reddit threads where people will just like tear our shit apart and be like, rare RSO is not RSO because it doesn't have blackness to it. It's not black. It doesn't have tar. It doesn't have burnt chlorophyll and burnt lipids. And that's
it's
what
dabbable.
Yeah, dude. So that's the second part that really ruffled a lot of feathers. So once we started we knew we were going to make RSO in Oklahoma and we knew we were going to do it well, but I had my lab and it's the first time that I had this giant lab. It's mine. I have I have everything. Short path, rotovap, you name it.
All the tools, and you don't have to move them every time you need them.
Dude, it's set it and forget it in a lot of these cases. So I would take these giant BHO runs from already a crazy negative temp. I'd run them. I'd pour it all out into the same beaker. I'd have like a 5,000 milliliter beaker, which is huge. If anyone can perceive it, it's very big. It's like, it's almost like a one. Yeah, it's almost like a vertical 1 gallon bucket or 2 gallon bucket. It's really tall and narrow. Everything would go in there. And then I would take pleasure in going over to my drum of 99% medicinal grade alcohol, take that and dump it in there. Or it was 100%, we would buy the drum. I can't even remember the name of it. It's got all these stickers on it. I'm already talking too fast to kind of recall all the terminology, but it's not isopropyl alcohol. It's made specifically for extraction. So
it's like scientific grade.
Exactly. We buy this from the same people we get our butane from. And we can buy ISO, buy the drum from them too, but it's not the cost of this shit. This shit's way more expensive. It's basically a drum of Everclear. You take that, you pour equal ratio into you make sure that you don't fill that beaker over halfway. You pour an equal ratio of that in there and you let it set and it will dissolve into that. On a heating mantle, you mix it all up. You pour it into your rotovap. Well, first you run it all through Buckner funnels on 0.3 micron lab filter paper. Pull all the plant fats out, which there is almost none already, but you also lose a lot of color, which is crazy. Like when you do this filtration, the alcohol elixir that comes out of the bottom, the solute, it's brightly colored, from like a neon fluorescent yellow to like a neon fluorescent orange. And you run it in the rotovap and come back the next morning and you have your RSO waiting for you. The machine kind of does it all for you. You pull your syringes, which is the most tedious part because we haven't found a machine that efficiently fills some syringes for us. So you pay people to sit there and pull and pull and pull. We sell everything in only 2 forms, 1 mil syringe and 1 ounce syringe. You're limited in the state by selling concentrate. It's a 1 ounce maximum container. So they call them baller jars. You could sell a 1 ounce baller jar of BHO, sauce, diamonds, batter, whatever. Even a slab of shatter. A 1 ounce slab of shatter you can sell. Or in our case, you can sell a 1 ounce syringe of RSO. And so we sell the 1 gram, the 1 ounce. We don't get many 1 ounce orders. It's rare, but it helps because that patient who doesn't want to go to the store or who doesn't want to have or waste 31 gram syringes,
right?
It helps them out. So yeah, the 1 gram, the 1 ounce, winterized RSO, and that was it. All retails for between $10 to $15 a gram, and we keystone it. So we sell it to the dispensaries for about $5 to $10, depending on like where they're located and how much it costs to get it out there and stuff like that. Because Oklahoma is a really big state. And now we sell it for much cheaper. It's probably not best to disclose like what all the prices are, but in the beginning, that was the initial cost. If you see it for cheaper now or you see it for more, we don't control the retail aspect of it. We sell it for as cheap as we can afford to sell this stuff for. It's a minimum of 10 strains. It's fully winterized, and because of that, it's active. It's fully decarbed. It's got a lot of terpenes in it. We decarb it at a low temp, and you could put it on a dabber. You could put it under your tongue. We've had people tell it, I've seen many people do the belly button tech. I don't know if anyone listening is familiar with it, but you can inject it. You put it like a big glob of it in your belly button and put a Band-Aid or two over that so it doesn't secrete out. You usually try to do it before you go to sleep. When you wake up, there won't be anything in your belly button. Your body will fully absorb that. And we've heard of people having like insane psychedelic trips and stuff who have tried to use it recreationally. And that's why we try to like guide people who are going to use it medicinally, who don't have experience with cannabis. We try to always like use an analogy of walking into the water. So like you can always walk in really slow, but if you dive in head first, man, and you're soaking wet, it's really hard to get dry, right? So you treat the RSO the same way. Your goal when using RSO against any like critical ailments is getting up to a gram a day, especially those people that are using it in contingency with chemotherapy. And we've heard, how intense it is. So we always try to tell them like, there's that old adage, use a grain of rice size, maybe even half of that, just a tiny, like the head of a pin. And if you can start doing that daily or throughout the day, orally, if you're somebody who prefers to smoke it, you can vaporize it. Like we said, there's that belly button thing, but there's also a lot of cool ways to eat it. People put it inside of crackers. People put it inside of smoothies. We know people that take it and put it with coconut oil, and we'll microwave it a little bit, melt it down in the coconut oil, and then use that coconut oil to apply it. There's people that make poultices, and by apply the coconut oil, I mean they'll use it in smoothies or they'll rub it on themselves, and they'll also use it in suppository form, which we've seen people make their own suppositories. You can buy the suppository molds and kits on Amazon, and that was like one of the goals eventually with this whole thing is like maybe in the long-term future with the packaging, we have a QR code on there that somebody can scan, and it kind of takes them to an app, testimonial app, where everyone can kind of like upload testimonies. But before you upload the testimony, we take a little bit of data and it categorizes you. So like we ask you what your ailment is, what your age is,
like a patient
sex, race, exactly. Database. And then it'll kind of categorize it. So like if you're one of those people who falls into that category, hey man, I'm a guy who is a Caucasian male who's 50 years old, who's 250 plus pounds, and I'm dealing with leukemia right now, and I've heard crazy things about RSO. Maybe I go get RSO and I scan this app, and all of a sudden you see a bunch of other dudes that meet that criteria that are in there telling you how they use this RSO and what they did with the RSO. And like, I think that's something that's yet to be seen in our community. I think we see it on tons of different levels for dabbing and for growing and all this, but like I really would like to take it to a medicinal level. I don't think there's enough value being given to testimonies and people that are choosing to use plant medicine. I think there's always that stigma that's given to those kind of people. And I think occasionally when someone's dealing with an intense issue, there's not enough resources. People are flipping stones and just looking everywhere for any kind of information they can get. And out here in the West, what we're limited to is really just Western medicines. And you may get lucky with somebody who's really good with plant therapy, but rarely do you have some sort of digital application where you can go in and look at all of this data where it shows like, hey man, these are the people that have used this product. And you always kind of have to listen to these stories, and I can only tell so many stories, and when I'm fucking gone, who's going to know how many people we help with this RSO? But like if there was this bank of data.
Well, it's like it's like Seed Finder, it's like Leafly, in the old days, like going back to the old medical days. I mean, like Sanja Ganja, like she and I talked about how she was, in the front of it in Denver because she was keeping such, not logs, but essentially like this internal categorization of like, what are patients reporting back to me as working for them in these scenarios, and how can I translate that back to the, the medical community?
Yeah. And maybe it's part of getting older. And I'm always thinking about that. Like, what's something that I could leave behind? And it's like, I didn't make RSO. It's not me. I'm not Rick Simpson. And then a lot of people gave us shit for that, bro. Like, they'd say, you're calling it RSO and you're not Rick Simpson. You don't make Rick Simpson oil. And you're like, dude, you're right in a regard. But if you read his book, oh yeah, we've had people tell us that. Because like here in Colorado
pretty common here.
But you know, the cannabis community, man, like I love them to death, but at the same time, it's a double-edged sword. They're very honest and very opinionated, and in many cases, many consumers don't have the time to educate themselves through actual experience. They're researching on the internet, and if they read 3 people that say, hey, you're Rare Extracts, you're not Rick Simpson, this isn't Rick Simpson oil, generally that someone that reads that's going to be like, yeah, like
that makes sense.
I could see that, yeah. And it's like, we're not claiming that we're Rick Simpson, but what we are claiming is we're carrying on his medicinal values, his ethics. And in his book, in the beginning, they used naphtha to make RSO. It further went to Everclear. But if anybody knows what naphtha is, it's a very caustic chemical that you gotta get by either having you can get naphtha a couple ways, but back in the day, naphtha was used to fill lanterns, old school bug lanterns, Coleman lanterns. And then another way people would get it would be by freezing an old Coleman gas tank and popping it, and you could drain the naphtha out of it that way, which was very dangerous.
Yeah.
And in his book, he says, he's like, hey man, naphtha fucking sucks. It can give you skin cancer. Like, I'm not saying this is the best way to do it. I'm saying it's a stringent solvent that strips the plant of everything medicinally beneficial and maybe a little more other shit that you don't need. So like, and he read his book, man, buy his book. He says it. I challenge you to do this better. Like, it can be evolved. And, you know, why the hell not acknowledge that instead of like kind of critiquing everybody? Like, I'm not saying that you can't call it other things. I'm just saying what we do is making this medicine as a service to the patients and to the people who need it, as well as kind of giving him credit where it's due. I don't want to come up with a different name of something that we used to call RSO just because people don't like it and have to call it rare SO or like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to do that. We're Rare Extracts. We make RSO. We sell it in Oklahoma to the patients, and hopefully we'll be in other states by the end of this year and hopefully by next year. And that's the goal, is like, this is not a profit driving thing. This is like, how do we create something that's going to kind of outlive us? And I think if we get this tech out there to the right people, and yeah, I would like to have my brand name associated with it if I'm going to go teach people how to do it and pass on the years of the experience. And that, I mean, shit, dude, when we do hang out, I can tell you testimonial stories. There's people here, there's people that aren't here anymore that I wish could have filled in stuff on that app. You know what I mean? In theory, if the app existed.
Well, and it's something that we take, I don't want to say we take advantage of, but we often forget is that sort of the balance of this medical market and the balance of some of these origins of the medical scene is that these are patients with terminal illnesses. These are not people who are going to be here to 97 because they were selling weed since they were 18. You know, these are truly the medical scene started because of a medical need. And like, to your point, in Colorado, it is very hard to find medical products.
That guy I told you about, who when we first went to my uncle and he drove us down to their house and they had a shed out back and he was growing for them, that guy ended up passing on, right? And his wife, who at the time was healthy, and my uncle was his caregiver, he passed on. He had lung cancer. But as he was fading out, he loved the RSO and he loved the great flower from my uncle. And he loved sitting in his recliner watching Price is Right and drinking his smoothies and relaxing and having his oxygen on and stuff. His wife my uncle later became her caregiver, and she had a double mastectomy. And I hadn't seen her for a couple of years, and my uncle took me down there one day, and he's like, show her. Or my uncle says, show him. And she took her shirt off, and I didn't even know all this occurred. I knew that her husband had passed on, but I didn't know what had happened to her. She had gotten this crazy tattoo. It's like this huge, crazy nautical, like chest piece with like octopus and seahorse, and it was beautiful. She had flown out to California to get this tattoo artist who does cover-ups for women who had mastectomies, double mastectomies, and my uncle was her caregiver, and she was in remission and growing and still using RSO and all that. But yeah, man, it's crazy, like how, like you said, the medicinal benefits, and yeah, I can't speak enough to that. I don't. There's just too many stories, dude. There's too many stories. I could tell you stories all day, but have forgotten much more than I can remember. I think that's a huge part of it, is like you don't keep track. You're a conduit. You constantly tell yourself, anytime you get some sort of egotistical thought on this shit, it's like, would it be being done if you weren't doing it? And it's like, fuck yeah, it would be. Yeah. For sure. And it is. There's tons of other guys who share my mentality on this that are like, okay, let's do the math here. We have RSO. What happens? RSO is laden with cannabinoids and terpenes. What happens if we remove binary compounds, things that are redundant, like plant fats and chlorophyll? What happens to the RSO? Well, in each syringe, the potency increases. Right. The cannabinoids, the terpenes, everything increases. So, like, I'm not alone in this theory. There is still a lot of, there's still that knuckle dragging mentality. People are, I want to stay caveman. I want the burnt plant fats. I want the stuff made in the rice cooker. And that's fine. Those guys are all over. You can find them. They're on Instagram. Type in RSO, hashtag RSO, see what comes up. Yeah. It's pretty wild. And props to those guys. They're risking the biscuit. And if I had the app, if we started the app, there would be a huge column for DIY RSO. Right. I'm not going to exclude that. That's my roots. Why would I do that?
That's why you shared tech.
Yeah, freely. Openly. Future 4200 is an app in a forum that I've used for years.
Huge online.
Helped me so many times. Like, let's just use
Future's
live resin carts. If anybody's at home trying to decarb live resin or shatter or any other kind of concentrate that's not rosin and putting it in a cart and it's not hitting properly or it's clogging or recrystallizing and you don't know how to resolve that problem without using some sort of inorganic cutting agent such as like glycerin or vitamin E oil or whatever PG, all this other shit PEG. Is, propylene glycol, yeah. Fuck all that shit. You do an 80-20 cut with distillate. Get really good distillate, decarb your hash, and cut it with 20% distillate. And I promise that cart will never clog again. Distillate is the best cutting agent. I've never seen anything better for a cart. That's a, what do they call it? 50... What is the thread? 503 thread? Damn it. I get it fucking mixed up with the goddamn
510 threads.
510. Yeah, goddamn Levi's, man. We were up at the outlets the other weekend. There's so many different numbers of Levi's. I was like,
model numbers.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what the difference between all these numbers is. So I got a little brain fog. But yeah, distillate, great cutting agent. We did a lot of live carts in Oklahoma. We don't really do so much live carts anymore because the non-solvent market has taken off of the disposables and it's hard for us to compete. And if anybody's listening and wondering like, hey man, whatever happened to SHO in Oklahoma? I'll tell you exactly what happened to SHO in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Fucking every single, this is how it works. You got two kinds of growers. You got small, and this is commercial. Yeah. You got small scale growers who are like, hey, we only have 20 lights and we grow the best shit in the world. And then you got these other guys that are like, we're still putting up lights. Like this is 400 lights. This is 10 rooms of 20 lights each. And this is the next facility I'm going to drive you over to on the golf cart. And those guys are great too. But this is how non-solvent went for both operations. We're a lab. We receive a split. Our split in the legal market for non-solvent was 40-60. We get 40%, you get 60%. We process it, we pay for testing, we package it, we label it, and we return you your percentage so you can sell it. And if you don't want to sell it, we'll sell it for you. We have to cut out sales tax. We have to take that cut out, and then we'll cut you a check. And that all worked on the up and up for a while until people from those two grows started looking at it these two ways. Small grow, well, we don't really make a lot, and non-solvent equipment is cheap. It's cheap to get a processing license, $2,500. It's cheap to build a non-solvent lab. Why are we giving these guys 20% of this small little grow? We don't have 20% to give up. We have to figure out how to retain this. And for every Osprey you buy, or anytime you go on, this is the two, man, I hate saying this, but you could teach a monkey to make non-solvent. Like, it is not solvent-based extracts at all. Like, it is either a washing machine or mixing by hand. And if you buy your washing machine via Low Temp Plate or any other company, Whistler Tech, you get free tutorials with it. And then on top of that, you go on YouTube and just type in non-solvent extract demo or DIY. I mean, it's all there, man. Yeah. Go to Bubble Man's early videos and you're going to see all of him using
every week.
So like, it's open access. So that's the small grow. We don't have enough to share anymore.
Well, and Future was like the first place for open source solvent stuff.
It was big time. Anything you wanted to know, Diamond Tech, how to make distillate at the right temperatures.
Stuff out in the vac oven, like.
Yeah, man, he was the guy, and still is. Like, going to those events is really cool.
And Grey Wolf, like going back to your, like, they did the propane or the butane residuals, like with all the cans.
Dude, he showed everyone what mystery oil was.
Right.
You know, just by distilling a couple cans of Newport. He was like, "This is your highest grade. This is your lowest grade, and look what both of them have."
Right. Here's Blink. Here's, Vector. Here's whatever.
Oh yeah, and posting them online. The analyticals with all the different shit that's inside of it, and people are dabbing it in their lungs.
So going back to solventless.
Small grows, we just don't have enough to give them anymore. We cannot afford to give those people 40% of our grow to process it and put it in a jar and sell it for us. We can sell it. We're already selling our own flour.
Not realizing that now packaging, now labor, now labels, now.
Well, yeah, but they got to figure out what to do with their crew when they're not growing, So like, everyone wants to be in-house. That's another big term in the commercial cannabis community that took off. Vertically integrated is another one. And if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's where you own from the grow all the way to the place it's sold at, the dispensary. And for the large scale grow, it was like, we're not going to give these guys 40% because that is just way too fucking much of this giant grow. Like, it's just not happening. And let's be honest, it's savvy business tactics. Right. Why are you going to let money go out the door anytime?
Yeah.
So non-solvent is the easiest form of extracts you can make. It has the easiest, what's it called? The lowest financial bar of entry.
And lowest risk.
And no risk. I wouldn't, unless you slip or lock yourself in a freezer.
Put your hand in the press.
Yeah, put your hand in the press, smash it. And I think a lot of that's on, operator error. I don't think that's equipment failure or risk of working with a hazardous material. You step into working with butane, something that likes to explode unless it's under negative temperatures. It's known as something being volatile. You have to have a gas license to handle it. And that was another part of what it all came in with us in Oklahoma. We had they created another entity after Metric called the LP Gas Board. And they required to up our lab even more with a bunch of fire alert systems and fire precaution. They wanted us to have an Ansel system over our vacuum ovens, a hood vent. It's a lot of extra shit. It costs a lot of money. It bled us pretty well, but we stayed afloat, especially with the RSO. It was like, all right, man, if we think we were doing just sauce and BHO, we probably would have been gone a long time ago. But the fact that we pivoted and realized there's not a lot of medical products in this market, let's actually just steer back to what we did in the original format, which was make a medicinal product. We were a caregiver. Like, you never think that either. Like, but you sometimes go back to their roots, and that's where it all started, and that's where it all needs to kind of go back to. And it really worked out for us. We weren't looking around and being like, oh man, 5 other companies releasing RSO today. But that's how BHO was. We would go to a dispensary and see 5 other companies of BHO, and they would tell us, hey, paid this much for this one, paid this much for this one. Are you going to beat those prices? And that would be from their high end to their low end. And it's like, whew, that is a dry climate. But
and then same thing happened with solventless because they were
it is happening
in-house.
Aggressively right now.
Yeah.
You're seeing all these non-solvent brands expire. You're seeing a lot of the grows go back to packaging flour. They're pre-packaged. And so this just happened this past year. Oklahoma passed the pre-packaged law. So from now on, all cannabis sold in Oklahoma will have to be pre-packaged. Prior to that, they were one of the last states that would allow what they call farmers market rules.
Okay.
Where you can even go in with your own jar and they'll tear it out and fill it.
That's insane. That's cool though. I mean, especially on a cutting down of waste.
It is. It's how it used to be here. And you'd take pride in what kind of jar you had.
Yeah.
Whether it was a cool aluminum one,
jar,
stickers, fucking dude, right. Name it. Put it in a koozie in case you dropped it and it broke. Like,
right.
all kind of
The
different little
restash
shit.
jars that they used to have.
Remember those?
Yeah.
A lot of really cool ones. So yeah, that's kind of how we got to RSO in Oklahoma. It was not part of the plan for the first couple years. It was a long-term plan for the business, but we didn't think we would have to initiate it as quick as we did. But man, did it not help us and really prove to us what our roots are, like what we need to be doing. And I think for me and for everything I learned out here in the Colorado Caregivers Program, I like selling RSO under the RARExtracts brand. It's much more rewarding than trying to that, and it's much more rewarding hearing somebody tell you how this plant affected them as opposed to somebody like telling you like about the profiles of the rosin. Like, I love rosin. I make my own rosin to smoke. I smoke rosin with you. Like, I love hash. I still smoke BHO occasionally. But yeah, it's different to hear those stories, man. And that's why I love the testimonies. That's why.
Well, and like, you know, something that people don't talk about these days. And I know we're going long, so I'll try to go. If you're good, then I love this. But something people don't talk about, and I was actually talking about this with a grower that probably doesn't want to be named, is that for a while, off market, people were open blasting. People were, you know, if you had a problem in your grow, you would just throw it in a glass tube. You know, you're like, you have PM, you have botrytis, you have bugs, you have whatever. You're like, just throw it in a column or a tube. And I'm not saying it got rid of the problem completely, but it was believed to mitigate that, you know, transferal.
Well, dude, yeah.
And now now the hype of non-solvent, now all of a sudden those same growers who are blasting are like, well, I'll just wash it, not realizing that ice and water are not doing anything for those problems.
So, yeah, quick little secret.
Yeah.
And this is not something we did in our lab, but something we quickly found out because of so many other non-solvent labs coming up. We had friends that own non-solvent labs. I'm not going to name names, but they were like, hey, you guys were here before us and you processed non-solvent for a while. Did you ever run it testing for heavy metals? I was like, well, what are they growing? Is it a hydro or is it no-till or organic? He's like, no-till. It is very rare that we process non-solvent for no-till grows and they came back without heavy metals.
Wow.
Very rare. Microbials. There's no way to get rid of heavy metals in a non-solvent product. That's residual. That's in there. I don't know of a microscopic magnet that's going to pull that shit out. Well, but I do know how to help people, and I don't know this now. I didn't try to explain in that response to that person who inquired. I was like, you're fucked. That product has to either go to remediation, which means it goes to a BHO processor or a distillate maker for that term.
Just strip it.
You could just fucking bring it down to its boiling point. And that's, you know, how you're going to literally kill all that off. Because none of that shit's an extremophile. And what an extremophile is any kind of living organism or contaminant that's going to be present past a certain temperature or filtration or freezing point. So like those three factors will create an extremophile. So if it's something that you can't get rid of after getting it to like moon pressure, like the face of the moon, or fucking burning it or freezing it, and it's still present, like there's certain mushrooms that are extremophiles. They're like, we took this shit to space and brought it back. It's like, we don't know what the fuck this is. Like there's certain paramecium, they find it like the bottom of like underwater lakes in the bottoms of caves and shit, and they're like, we don't know how the fuck this is living down here. It's an extremophile. Or the bacteria that lives over on Yosemite's geyser, those are extremophiles. Nothing should be able to live in that water at that temperature. Like, yeah, it's past boiling. So like, that's, if anyone wants to know.
The cockroaches.
Microbial, yeah. They're the cockroach fucking germs of the world. And the only reason I know this is because my wife has a fucking master's in microbiology, and she came home one day and was like, have you ever heard of an extremophile? I was like, no. So she laid it all out. But a lot of the microbes that you find in cannabis are not extremophiles. And when that guy asked me about the heavy metals, I was like, no, you're fucked there. And he goes, okay, next question. Did you guys ever deal with microbials? Like if somebody came to you and they were like, this cannabis is covered in PM, can you wash it for us? I told him no. We would always say no. It's contaminated. Yeah. Right? So I saw that guy a couple, I want to say weeks, but the way my brain works, it was probably a fucking almost half a year, if not longer. I saw that guy a little later, and he goes, dude, you remember when I called you about those problems? Thanks a lot. I was like, yeah, no problem. Did you ever get them figured out? And he's like, oh, not the heavy metal, but the microbial for sure. And I go, how'd you do that? Because I like, you know, I'm an extracts, I'm a processor. I'm
Right, like, teach me your
oh,
tech.
dude, my ears are like, boom, they get huge. I'm like, what'd you do? And he goes, well, microbials, we just thought they can't live in like any kind of crazy environment, right? And I was like, oh, we put them in a vacuum oven. I was like, did you put them in a vacuum oven? And he goes, no, we zapped them in the microwave. I was like, you zap your rosin in the microwave? He goes, yeah, we zap the rosin, the whole batch in the microwave. We lay it out really thin on parchment and zap it and then flip it and zap it again. Do it a couple times. It kills all the fucking microbes in it. It renders it dead. I was like, you're fucking kidding me. He goes, we pass.
It's
if
a
we
rad
fail,
machine for rosin.
he goes, if we fail with a microbe test, we'll go and we'll fucking microwave that shit. We'll zap it a couple times and we'll send it back and it always passes. I was
That's
like,
insane.
bro, I felt like my head exploded. I'd never heard of no shit like that. And yeah, so if anybody is out there home growing and they get a little PM on their stuff and they're concerned about it, I'm not saying this is like the 100% because I haven't tried it myself. At the time that this information was given to me, we were solely and at the moment still dependent on purveying our rosin, our RSO. We do not have any rosin contracts in Oklahoma anymore. And to give you context to that, we used to have like 15. We had tons of people that would bring freezers in. We still have a cold room in our lab. It's a giant cold room. Has all the washing machines. It has. I just sold the 2 freeze dryers actually because we just don't have a need for them. It's like, what do we need these 8-shelf pharmaceutical freeze dryers for? I asked my partner. I was like, dude, do you want one of these? Do you want to take a fucking plate? What do you want? You know, he's like, no, dude, get rid of them. We don't need them. I was like, all right. So,
well, and it comes down also to like, you know, especially from the home grow level, like there are things that have been advised for years that, I mean, dude, like going back to Jorge Cervantes and the Rev with TLO and like some of these things, you know, like rereading some of these older books and some of the tech that was advised being passed down now, it's like, yes, you could do a hydrogen peroxide wash on PM covered buds. And if it's for you and it's for you personally and you're the one smoking it,
yeah,
there is a tolerance level that you can have for some of these things.
Oh, dude, I have an outdoor and I get PM. We're in Colorado. We
Right.
get rain at the end of the fall every year, or at the beginning of the fall, end of summer every year.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting rain right now. That's what I use is a hydrogen peroxide wash.
Right.
I go and I wish I could find hydrogen peroxide cheaper. But when you go to buy it in bulk, it's not that little 4% bottle anymore. It's like
concentrated.
Yeah, and I can't risk frying my plants. I'm not going to sit there and try to do the dilution correctly. I just buy the 4%, and I do the 1 to 4. I mix that fucker into one of my 1-gallon sprayers.
Yeah.
And you can literally, and if anyone hasn't seen it, you can spray the PM off. You're not getting all the way in there though. Like so it can't be heavy. It's for me, man. I'm never scared of harvesting a plant if it's 4 hash early. If I see any kind of sign, if it's past 5 to 6 weeks of PM coming, I'll defoliate the whole fucker that night, leave the light off, and cut it the next morning.
Well, and I mean, so to your point about microbials, like my understanding was, like again, with my first few grows, I got PM. I found somebody who had, you know, a BHO ability.
Yeah.
And was like, and they said like this, I wouldn't give this to other people. I wouldn't share this with other friends. Or if you do, like, just be open about it. But in theory, the PM or whatever you're dealing with should be killed. But it's tainted. You know, like from the jump, like there's a transparency thing and it's your own hash. So if you want to smoke your own tainted hash, whatever. But
you'd be surprised how many people went directly from home growing to buying their license in Oklahoma, and because it was such a low bar of entry, and they would come to us and go, hey, we have a whole giant outdoor, but it's
covered in PM and botrytis,
and we know you guys are the guys to go to because you blast, so you can clean it up for us, right? I was like, no. So this is the way Oklahoma works. Like anything that we get to process, this is really cool, has to be tested first for microbials, heavy metals, contaminants, potency, and it can only be present in 25-pound batches, which is great for me because I have a 20-pound column and a 5-pound column, so I can
do one.
Oh yeah, I throttle through them, dude. I take high pride in running him. That's like one of my favorite things to do is like how efficient I've gotten independently as an extractor. It's really cool. Like it's I ride an exercise bike, and there's times where I'll get on the bike and not realize until I'm in the last couple minutes of my ride. And it's like that with processing. I will start, and before I know it, dude, 4 runs are done. End of the day is over. 5 podcasts have gone. I'm just like, whew, fuck yeah. And I'm sweat. You know, I've got a light sweat. And I'm by myself. Like my partner, he does all the paperwork, and we have what do they call it? A second party to do our packaging. They come in and they're temp agency. So they come in, we have fold out chairs, a fold out table. We have all the testing labels made. We have all the Mylar bags present. We just bring them. Greg, all my partner has to do is just keep bringing them beakers. He's like, just dude, the hardest part is pouring beakers and bringing them to them because they run through them so quick. And so like they can do 10,000 grams in a day.
That's insane.
It's wild to watch. They don't talk. They just put their face mask on, their hairnet on, gloves on, and just fucking do. Some will set their little iPhone up in front of them with like Netflix going, just throttling through it. Or like I said, music or a podcast. They take their lunch, come back, you know.
So are there things that you've taken from like these situations, like for your home grow? Like, because I know you still make rosin for yourself, and like, definitely. Are there, like, I don't know if it's like habits per se, but are there, you know,
I would say the first thing I started to change was the way that I pressed. Like I used to do small presses, controlled. And when we started getting so much material to run through, I had to start pressing more at a time. In a small, low temp press, I can press like almost an ounce in one bag.
Well, and I have the Sasquatch that I got from you.
Oh, yeah. You could throttle through a lot of material in that.
Yeah. Which throw 30, 40 grams on top of there and just
it's crazy. And it's, for me, I always think faster the better. And if I can do a lot, exactly. So like, why do these small batches? So what I started using was and I had been using them before, the bulletproof bags from Low Temp Plates, the 220 micron. Okay. So I will double 25 and, you know, opposing threads each way. Yeah. And opposing folds each way. And then a bulletproof bag over all of that. A 220.
220 instead of a 160.
Yeah. They are whatever they have on site. If they don't have the 220s, I'm pretty sure it's a 220.
Because I use 225s and a 160, but like they do have 220s.
Yeah, I use the 220 because like I feel like it doesn't hold much back. It's just like a cage basically. Yeah. And
it's just there to protect blowout. Basically. Exactly.
Yep. And so I do that. As far as the way that I've, you know, obviously don't make BHO in the state anymore. And that, a lot of people should know that too. Prior to 2017, there was no felonies for producing BHO in the state of Colorado. After 2017, they passed a law that it's a class 3 felony for production of BHO, which is a controlled substance.
Well, I remember seeing rosin people getting pops for having closed loops just at their house.
Yeah, and rosin's another, you know, sketchy way, you know, because of the whole possession laws here and shit like that. That's why it's cool for people like us who have small home grows. But like, if you're throttling out a lot of rosin out of your home, like it's best that you're probably not posting that shit online and social media and being too public about it. But if you got fucking 2 little 315 lights and putting 12 plants, you know, in your room and flowering them, you should be all right. Man. Exactly. But I think with the way that BHO worked, there was nothing I really took back to Colorado because I wasn't making it here anymore. You know, it was like we transferred everything there. You know, I would say it's tough. I have to stay a lot of my time in Oklahoma. We had a baby, you know, explaining to your wife that you have to maintain a lot of your time in Oklahoma and maintain your residence legally is tough. And so that's been a juggling act.
Because you're an Oklahoma resident.
I am. Yeah, I am an Oklahoma resident. I'm fucking there a lot and it's tough. But yeah, giving up the Colorado residence and becoming an Oklahoma resident, you know, I hadn't really, the last time I had changed residency was when I came from Florida to Colorado. Trying to think of other things I brought back. There's, you know, not really much, to be honest.
What about cuts? Like, how does that work? Like, does Oklahoma allow you, prior to metric, I guess, were you allowed?
You could integrate whatever the frick you want to do.
Okay.
And it was
now
crazy.
You can't.
Well, what was really crazy is there was guys going down there from Colorado that I'm not going to name any names, but they know who they are if they listen to this, and naming strains different names and creating their whole genetic line on the back of renaming Tropicana cookies something different and naming this different and that different. And you would see these plants and be like, dude, all my buddies grow these. This kid is from Denver. I know what this plant It's like, this is wild. That's Gorilla Glue. What's he call it? And they're like, Thunder Ape. And I'm like, yeah, that's not. That's
well,
GG4.
There were people I sold cuts to that like they decided that
do your thing. Like, like here's the thing we do. We have a bunch of friends in Florida. Whenever I go to Florida, I take Trop cookies. And I don't grow Trop cookies this year. I grew something called Crash Glow from 3 seeds. But
shout out Jeremy.
Yeah, shout out JLS Monster Jeremy. But when you smell it, you know it's an orange pheno, just like any other plant that has those orange dominant terpene profiles, right?
Yeah.
So the Trop cooks amongst my friend group, we always call it orange mints. It always tastes like orange mints. Like it's got this orange mint flavor to it, and like almost like a orange Altoid.
Okay.
Like orange Bucky's mint, like those metal tin mints. Like not super minty, but like it has this like mentholated breath after it. Okay. Exactly. And that's what we always call it, but we never write it on the label. It's never like Trop cookies, orange mints. No, it's just like, dude, you got some of that orange mint shit again? It's like, yeah, the Trop for sure.
So speaking, sort of transitioning into this other kind of category I wanted to talk to you about was like, when it comes to rosin or whether it comes to solvents or when it comes to some of these things, require an advanced knowledge, right? Like not just diving straight in. And so where I'm going with this is, by trade, you're also an electrician. Yeah. I'm sure you've seen some pretty crazy shit and grows with people who've tried to DIY on that side of things, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that because like as a home grower, when I first started growing, I was like, I don't want to call an electrician. Like, are they going to rat me out? Like, are they going to know what I'm doing? Even if you are complying with all the laws, it just feels weird to invite a licensed professional into your home tent or
100%.
home basement, so what's your pulse check on like electricians and their friendliness with growing and the necessity of somebody to call an electrician?
Yeah. I would say if you're electricity is one of those things where, you're not going to kill yourself if you play around with plumbing. You're not going to have to worry about killing yourself if you hang some sheetrock. But if you play around with electricity, it was one of the first things that was told to us in the apprenticeship. It only takes a milliamp to stop the rhythm of your heart and defibrillate you. If you want to be brought back into fibrillation, you're going to need somebody with a defibrillator. Unless you have any of those things on hand and you're not confident with electrical and your handling of it or your understanding of it or being able to turn off the power before you address it, call a licensed professional or a friend who has experience and is not. I would say licensed professional. Let's just start there. If you have a friend who is a licensed professional or who has experience, call them. That's like next on the tier, I would say. Generally, when it comes to having somebody in your home for growing, I would say it depends on, first of all, the state you're in and the legality. If you're in a state that's legal, like Oklahoma or Colorado or Washington, Oklahoma, I would say you could name that now. But I would say the older the state's cannabis laws are, the more cool the electricians are going to be because they've grown up in that climate. And chances are they've had friends who they've helped out. Yeah. And in those states, if you're a home grower, you're not doing anything illegal, right? You're not going to
but to your point about theft, just letting somebody know what, that you're growing.
Yep. And, there's nothing wrong with that. Generally, if you're going to have an electrician come and you don't know what to say when you call the company to have them come and look at it, be generally vague. Say, I have a need or I need a dedicated circuit in a specific location of my house. It needs to be, and get your shit together. Know what the voltage and the amps are. So if you have a light control, say I need a 50 amp, 220 volt dedicated circuit ran into this area of my house. And they'll say, okay, what's it for? And just say, oh, it's for a light control or for this or for that. You could even say an oven. And when the guy shows up, there's that rule of thumb. You can gauge them if it's in a state that's not necessarily legal. If it's in a legal state, you should have nothing to worry about. They should already know that, okay, I'm coming to install a light controller. We've installed plenty of these, or I've seen them at my friends' houses. If it's a not legal state, that's when I would be a little bit more concerned, kind of gauge the electrician. Obviously, dude, I just had a security guy come and install a motion sensor in my garage, and I could have done it myself, but like freaking, what's it called? Comcast wouldn't let me buy it. They have to send the guy out to put it in your house. They won't let you just buy it and put it in. So the guy comes out and he installs it, and it's in my garage, and he sees I'm transplanting right there. He's like, "Oh, check this out." And I was like, "Yeah, no big deal." And he didn't say anything about it after that.
Right.
No biggie. I'm not doing anything wrong. It's a couple clones on the ground going into pots. I have nothing to hide.
I remember the first time the sprinkler guy came over and he had to like go down, to empty out the system, and I was like, all right, we're gonna have this kind of moment where you're cool and I'm cool, and
and if you're not, I'm confident in what I'm doing here. I'm not breaking any laws. What are you gonna do to me?
Yeah.
Be confident. But I would say the two no-nos that you need to watch out for, that a lot of people like have a misinterpretation for growing cannabis in their homes, legal or illegal. Number one, don't steal power, because that shit's going to come with a heavier fine than fucking growing cannabis. So like if you're one of those people who's like, oh man, I'm going to put up a couple lights, but I don't want the power company to know. Trust me, dude. The power company doesn't give a fuck. They don't. They don't have anyone who sits around and independently monitors addresses. That's not a job that they give. You know how hard that job would be for somebody to sit there and monitor every fucking residential address that has a kilowatt spike, and to fucking address the police about that?
Right.
You have to start talking about people that have electric band. Let's say my kid bought a fucking 1500 watt amp and plays the guitar every night on Adderall from fucking midnight to fucking 6 a.m. Well, that's the equivalent of a 1500 watt grow, right? Like, what if my hot tub runs every fucking night and it keeps warm through the winter? I mean, come on.
Crypto mining.
The shit doesn't exist. And to get that extent of paranoia, you might be doing other shit. But, like, don't hang around people that think you need to steal power to grow cannabis. Don't do that shit. Comes with a heavier fine, and they don't fucking care.
And don't ask your electrician to do it for you.
Yeah, don't. That's, again, when you're going to raise some eyebrows, man. I've had multiple people reach out to me and be like, I heard you're an electrician and you can wire dedicated circuits for grows and this and that. And it's like, yeah, totally. And they're like, I just need it not to show up on my power bill. And I'm like, cool, yeah, you got the wrong guy. I'm not. I will never be attached to that kind of shit, because that's how you can get in some serious trouble. And from where we're at in Colorado, there's no need to do it. Pay your power bill, fucking grow your weed, enjoy life. Don't stress yourself out over that kind of shit. It's unnecessary. You have so much more to stress over, like especially when you're growing in your house. The health of the plants, the temperature. Fuck, man. The minute you put a light in your house, the temperatures change. Like, you got to start addressing this other shit. Don't be paranoid over somebody coming and putting a circuit into your basement. It's not as big of a deal as people think. I've been called to a lot of houses to install a lot of circuits, and in Florida, that was the name of the game. It was side work.
Right.
You'd always have a surfer dude hit you up. Hey, you'd be at the gas station filling up, and you'd be like, "Hey, man, you got a card?" And he hit you up. You come do some stuff at the house, and you get over there, and it leads you out to a garage out back. This is detached from the house, and it's like, oh shit, here we go. And he's like, "You're cool, right?" And it's like, all right, yeah, I'm cool,
yeah,
man.
I'm cool.
Fuck yeah, time to charge this guy double. Like,
so I wanted to talk about something that was brought up to me the first time I started like going beyond a tent. Like I went from one tent to two tents, I think, and all of a sudden there was this concern over like overloading your outlets, and overloading your circuits, and I was sort of advised never go above 80% of what your circuit can handle. Is that?
Yeah, so your breakers can reach 80% maximum for like 20 seconds. After that, they'll trip. You can even have them spike, like in that 80%. You have this like little window of a couple seconds to where the breaker can jump. It'll jump like sometimes, say it's a 30 amp breaker. It might jump all the way up to 30 amps really quickly and come back down to 28, 24.
Like when something turns on.
Exactly. So we call that cranking amps. Okay. And on a lot of utilities, you'll look at what's called the maximum cranking amps, which means starting amps. And that lets me know like, okay, this air conditioner starts at 29 amps, but it runs in alternating fluctuations at 25 amps max. So when we kick it on 20,
yeah, it's like that inertia required to
get the belts moving, get the magnets running between each other inside of those motors, generating enough like inertia to continue going and not drawing so much electricity off the start. And that is how it goes. Like a lot of things have those starting amps. Like on Wednesday, I have to go to a pizza place that just got new ovens. And we're wiring them on a circuit that's pre-existing. It's a 30 amp circuit, but the pizza ovens are cranking amp 32. And it's like, We'll wire them up real quick. We'll put them on the breaker. If the breaker trips, then we know it's not going to work, and we'll go ahead and run the 40 amp circuit or try to figure out how to get 90 Celsius THWN, which is rated for 35 amps, and put it on a 35 amp breaker. It's just kind of like sometimes you got to test it out. You got to figure it out. I can tell you this. A lot of people think that things are going to burn up. If it's on a breaker, it should not burn up. So like, let's say that you plug 25 amps worth of something into a 20 amp plug. Well, occasionally all of that's not going to pull 25 amps at once. Your fan might be on, this one might be off, that light might be on, that light might be off. If you can do what we call in the trade juggling your ampacity correctly based on timing, you calculate between what's called demand load factor and actual ampacity. So like you said, 80% is a great rule of thumb. But if you're able to juggle things, you can run 2/10 on 120 amp circuit if they're coming on at two separate times.
Like all four lights are all two light. They're not coming on like that. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4 staggered.
Dude, we've wired in commercial kitchens that are multi-level, one oven on the same circuit, 2 different floors, because the demand load factor predicts they're never going to be cooking 2 turkeys at the same fucking time. This is one independent family household.
Right.
So like, you save a bunch of money and a bunch of wire and a bunch of breaker space by doing that. And you consult the owner of the home. Hey, do you see this? And in the code book, there it says demand load factor allows this to occur. There's a whole section on it. You just Google NEC, which is an acronym for National Electrical Code. NEC, demand load factor section. It'll pop up. It's a whole big fucking thing.
What about like, because I had this happen to me actually a couple of days ago where I've run, extension cords from one side of the room to the other, and connected to those extension cords are surge protectors or, some sort of individual tripping. It's not a breaker, but like whatever you want to call it.
Overcurrent protection.
Yeah, and so like I plugged a shop vac in to suck out some stuff from a saucer, and it flipped the whole tent. Yeah, everything popped.
Something to look at is the gauge of your extension cords. So a lot of extension cords are sold in standard 16 AWG. 16 gauge wire is only good for about 10 amps. Okay. So like if you have an extension cord that is only good for 10 amps plugged into a 20 amp circuit, that extension cord wire is going to create resistance, and it's going to get hot, and it will trip that breaker based on temperature. Okay. Not on ampacity load, but on resistance. So you have, in electricity, they train us around Ohm's law. Ohm's law is contingent on 4 base values of electrical theory: amps, voltage, resistance, and it kind of goes in that format. You'll see the Ohm's law in a triangle. You'll see it in a pie, but you do all of your calculations on those 3 things: resistance, so not 4, 3, resistance, voltage, amps, and you divide and multiply into each other to solve for the other. I've actually got it tattooed on the back of this leg because I forget it occasionally. So it's volts over amps and ohms. Ohms is R for resistance, and that's what's happening. Unfortunately, that's what's happening with a lot of people that will have issues with extension cords. If you have a 20 amp circuit, go out of your way to get 12 gauge 20 amp extension cord. 12 gauge is good for 20 amps, 14 gauge is good for 15 amps, and 16 gauge is good for 10 amps. And what will happen is occasionally you will plug a lower gauge extension cord into a higher gauge circuit, and that circuit's good for 20 amps, and that cord wants to let 20 amps through, but that wire is only good for 10, and it starts heating up really good, and it trips the breaker.
Okay.
So breakers are tripped by 2 things. Ampacity, yes, if it increases by beyond 80%, it can and will trip if it's beyond a certain amount of time. Also temperature. Wires rated at 30 degrees Celsius, 60 degrees Celsius, 90 degrees Celsius. Generally, extension cords are always 60 degrees Celsius. So like the second that wire's resistance starts to get up to like 160, 200 degrees Fahrenheit, it's popping that fucking breaker. And it does it quick. And sometimes you can grab your cord and feel it.
Yeah.
If it's on a, acclimate floor, if you're outside and it's cold.
So there is a benefit though to having the surge protector sort of in between.
Yeah.
That and your breaker.
Definitely, man. I can't say enough stuff about surge protection. Okay. It can save you. I grew up in Florida. Yeah. I got in the electrical trade in Florida. Hurricane season's an MFer. I've personally gone to a tropical smoothie to replace all the outlets on the wall because they fried, I don't know how, but they got hit by lightning and it fried all the blenders. They have like a whole blender wall. It fried a bunch of other shit too. But needless to say, after that, we sold that tropical smoothie a really cool big ass surge protector that hardwired directly into the panel.
Okay. Very cool.
You can get surge protectors that will wire right into your panel, or you can have the strips that you use, like you said. Okay. And there's some that will plug into a wall. It'll be like a surge protection outlet.
Yeah.
So you can plug that fucker in, and then anything you plug in after that will be protected.
Okay. It's like an extra layer, kind of.
Yeah. Especially if you don't want to have to go back and worry about flicking that one that might be hidden behind the tent or hidden somewhere.
Yeah.
It's nice and convenient.
I always liked it too because it was a quick kill switch. Like right there in the grow. You didn't have to go find the panel.
What I did in the earlier days of using, so when you wash, now I install the switch in line on it, but my transfer pump, when I rinse my hash in my bag, the water I'm pulling is out of a really cold reservoir full of ice. And the way that I turn my transfer pump on and off used to be a surge protector mounted on the wall. So I would be rinsing my hash, and I'd just hit the switch, and it'd turn the transfer pump on, and ring, and then turn it off.
Okay.
It worked really well.
Whereas now, like when I was watering your plants, you just plug in the sump pump and let it rage.
Yeah, that's what I have outside for the sump pump. The thing throttles.
Yeah, it does. Well, I want to start to wrap this up, and this has been a great conversation. Really appreciate your time. So, going to go through some rapid fire questions for you, and then give you the floor. First grow setup. So just a quick stack.
Yeah, got given a 400 watt HTG light by my now sister-in-law. Okay. She was in college. She gave it to me. She traded a guy. She's a hippie. I don't remember what she traded him, but she came over to my house with it and was like, "You could probably use this." And prior to that, it's the same closet. I had an old, what they call a Cobra head, a 400 watt HPS light from a parking lot that I hung on 2 jack chains in a closet, and I grew that cantaloupe haze. Okay,
and just in the ocean forest,
minimal input. Yeah, not even ocean forest, dude. It was like fucking Miracle Grow dirt. I didn't know what I was doing. I would buy that dirt. I don't even think it was Miracle Grow. I want to say it was like this cocoa sphagnum mix that I bought at Home Depot or something. Okay. And I would use, you remember like Beastie Buds? It was like a granulated Fox Farm. It was like a 3-pack of this dry nutrient, salt crystals. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, nothing crazy.
And then, so now take us to like what your current home grow looks like.
Yeah, just 2 little 4x8 flood tables with the plants spread out between those 2. Or I think they're 4x6 actually. They're not huge. And then 3 15 watt lights I have hanging, but I only run 2 of them usually. Okay. I have a window air conditioner in that room, and it's a small little room. I built it in my garage. It's about the size of a walk-in closet. I think the room is 8 foot by 6 foot. So yeah, maybe it's like 8 foot by 10 foot. You've seen it. It's not huge.
No, I mean, it's
very modest and tiny. I don't run CO2. Usually have it on an irrigation system with a Trollmaster. It makes it a lot easier for me.
Are you running water only, or?
I use whatever I can get for free. I go to the trade shows, and I always walk up to the nutrient booths and tell them. Yeah, I tell them straight to their face, "Hey, I'm a home grower. I'm a licensed processor in Oklahoma. I'm here on account of my license, but none of the stuff I'm getting is in representation of it. This is all for my home grow." They're like, "Oh, cool, dude. Yeah, post it. Tag us." So right now I'm using Mills, and I just got a bunch of big 40-pound bags for free of Jack's nutrients. Okay. It's a salt-based. The Mills is liquid. It's
Mills pays the bills.
Yep, red bottles. I did an electric job. Wired a guy's mounted 2 panels for his grow. And he was like, "Hey, you want these? I don't need them anymore. I don't use them." I was like, "Sweet, that's expensive nutrients. I'll take them."
Yeah.
So I've been using that. I've gone through a bunch of different kinds. But yeah, that's what I'm currently using. Mills. Okay. When you were helping me look at it over the summer, I was doing hand watering because the plants were drinking invariably, so I didn't have time, and I had just transitioned them from clone to veg, so I didn't have time to veg them up big, and I knew the auto water, I didn't have time to change it before I left. It was a lot of little circumstances, so I was just hand watering at that time.
Okay. So does everything go to hash, Or do you save anything for flour?
No. Yeah, no flour. This, occasionally I'll cut a couple tops and save them for when if I know a family member's got a trip to come visit us.
Yeah.
They all smoke flour. Like my mom, my dad, my wife's family. So like any in-laws, they all smoke flour, and they always tell me, they're like, we want to smoke your stuff. Yeah. So we always
come take a dab.
Yeah, that's too much for them. I've put a bunch of them. Man, I've put a couple of my family members on Queer Street with some dabs. I feel bad about it. They're
back in the red hot days or recently?
Oh, dude, recently. Like there was like a 30th birthday party we had like last year, and one of my cousins took a dab and like disappeared, and we found him in the garage on the cold concrete laying on his back. He's like, if I stand up, everything's spinning. I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah. He had been drinking too.
Yeah.
But yes, you know how it goes when you mix the two and you're not ready for it.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, he's a flower smoker, and anyways, I'll keep a couple tops if I know someone's coming to visit, but no, I don't keep any flour. My wife doesn't smoke anymore since the child. So, and she was the flower smoker. Okay. She was a chillum hitter.
So then when you're harvesting, are you de-leafing or removing sugar leaves or anything, or you just...
Yeah, I do. I cut anything off that doesn't have resin on it. If it's a good sugar leaf and it's got resin on it, it stays.
Okay.
But if, the tip of it doesn't have any resin, I'll cut that fucker right off.
Okay.
I don't really concern myself with the chlorophyll bleed.
Yeah.
That a lot of people mention. The hash comes out pretty white usually. I always like to harvest a little early. I don't like taking things to full term because I'm not smoking the flour, so there's no reason. And I can pack in an extra harvest every year if I do it that way.
Okay.
I take it easy. I don't run my indoor when I run my outdoor. So right now my indoor is my hash room. A lot of people probably don't know that, but like my indoor is what I use to process my hash with. So my window air conditioner I have on a cool bot. So whenever I turn the grow off and I harvest everything, it goes in the freezer for a couple days. I gather my ice. I like to put my ice in my chest freezer for a few days prior. I think it makes the ice more cold. When I take ice straight from the ice maker or from the store and I pour it into the reservoir, I don't hear this like critical shatter. But when I freeze the ice in my deep chest freezer, it gets so much more cold. And I know this because like even with an ice pop, like if I take an ice pop and I put it in my freezer inside and I pull it out, I can eat the ice pop.
Yeah.
If I pull an ice pop out of my chest freezer, bro, it'll stick to your lips like a motherfucker. Like
your Christmas Story,
it's the
licking
worst.
Light poles.
Yep. So I know the ice gets colder, so I use the super cold ice, and my grow room is my cold room.
Okay. Seeds or clones?
I like to keep clones going that are proven, at least 3 to 4 strains at all time, and I like to always be hunting one at least once a year, if that makes sense. If I run my outdoor, previously we always did seed. But now that I'm a dad and I can't be hunting, I can't have that many extra little seedlings in my house or my yard. And so the past 2 years, I have just done 6 clones outside, 6 to 12 in the greenhouse. In the greenhouse, they're 4x4 beds, 1 plant per bed. It's only 4 plants in the greenhouse this year, and there's absolutely no room.
Oh, it was insane when they started.
For 4 plants, it's fucking insane. I had to drag everything else out. Almost everything else is cut except for 2 plants and the 4 in the greenhouse. And yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. All of that goes to hash. I won't.
Do you pull any melt or does it all go to rosin?
Yeah, if it looks good, I'll pull melt. But man, I hate cleaning the nail after smoking melt anymore. Like even if it's really, really good full melt, when I dip it in my alcohol solution, it contaminates the alcohol solution. Like that little bit, it floats. And every time I pull a nail out, there's some on it. So
just gotta pull out that old Chaz QCB and let it rage.
Or like smoke them in joints. You know what I mean? I'll put a snake of melt in the joints. What's really cool is I have a couple people that I process for that are home growers, and they know that I've been making hash for a long time. And they're like, hey, dude, I don't want to make this, and could you keep a large portion of it in melt form?
Yeah.
And I'm like, hell yeah, I don't mind. So
saves you bags and
saves me bags. And generally I'll take my portion and press it.
Yeah.
And they'll smoke some of the melt with me. I'll get to hang out with them, or they'll give me one of their pre-rolls they made.
Okay. what genetics are you running, or what are some breeders you'd recommend maybe for home growers or home hash makers that
Yeah, Spritzer is what I'm running always for the past. Spritzer and Garlic Drip have been the two that I've ran for the past 2 years. They always throw down 4% plus at least, and the hash is always white. There's something I like about color. Certain biomass is ipso facto when it comes to the way that it burns and produces the hash. It can be really good looking flour, but it fucking puts out a little bit of a darker hash. In these days, man, there's
I mean, like Trop cookies, like
yeah, and I'll tolerate that because it's such a different flavonoid, right?
Yeah.
It's contingent with the color difference. But some of this other stuff, man, like the color difference, when it's in flower form, it smells like a really good gassy plant. But then when you wash it, it's like this darker shit. Like one of the plants I'm running right now, I'm really excited about. I just got it back. People probably won't be excited to hear about it. Is like, cause like it's not like it's Blue Dream, but it's close in that vicinity. It's a Gorilla Glue #4.
okay,
Favorite pheno from like the past decade. I love it. It took me forever to find it again. Every time I'd get it from somebody and run it, it wasn't the original GG4. You know when you know, like it's a special flavor. If anybody comes here to Colorado and they want to look for something that's Gorilla Glue 4 that I can put my stamp on that I didn't grow, that's like a worthy rosin or flower, go to All Greens. They have a recreational side and they always have Gorilla Glue. And yeah, one of my favorites, and super excited to get that back. And I'm currently hunting from it's called Fiends, Fiendz Club, Fiends Club. It's a seed line made by Jackson's to the Ceiling, and he did a Funyuns TMZ cross. And I've got it down to the 2 female keepers after sexing it all year. Like I said, I like to hunt one slow, low
you
and
gonna
slow
jar
for a
test
year.
them or
No, they're not even flowered.
Oh.
They're just down to those 2 veg females. And
Okay.
I'm gonna fill my cloner right now. Not right now, but like I was planning on doing it in the next 48 hours. And that'll be like the run of the Funyuns TMZ, and I'll flower those next to each other and find out if I want the 1 or the 2. And generally give them to a bunch of friends. I'm one of those guys where like I don't think I'm the best grower. I don't claim to be. And I think it's always cool to like, it's like music, man. Like it's always cool, like to hear the way a guitar is played by so many people. And sometimes you can tell when it's that one person playing it. And occasionally it's that way with cannabis. Like you'll smoke something and be like, I know who grew this. And like,
well, it's like the sour papaya, dude. Like that you gave me. It was cool to see that from a different garden, from
Exactly.
a different processor. You know?
So I don't like to be stingy with the cuts. I'm not that guy. If it took me this long to select it, it'd be even cooler to see it last longer than that. You know, like if given out to people.
Well, and finding people who are willing to grow it. You know, I like going to the seed thing for a second. Like I know a fair amount of home growers who have started to make their own seeds. And, you know, I'll get excited and you're like, you want to grow 10 of my plants? And you're like, no, I have 10 of my own crazy ideas that I'm trying to go. You know, so if you find somebody who's willing, who's like, I will dedicate garden space. I know how to grow. You know, there's already a win there seeing it expressed.
Huge win. Huge. Absolutely.
What's keeping you excited about cannabis these days? You know, given a lot of the things you've discussed, what's keeping you here?
Future, you know, I don't consider it a space. I think it's a space that I think it is now, but not for me. For me, it's a ritual. It's something that's much more important than social communication. More important than, I hate saying this shit, but like cannabis to me, the plant and everything it's done for me has been more important than the friendships I've made, more important than the business relationships I've made, more important than the income I've made, more important than the places I've traveled. All of that can still go away. And I would be devastated if it took cannabis with it. But as long as I'm still able to grow and I'm still able to consume and do that on a daily basis, it's very important to me. I don't like getting too weird about it, but I've spent a lot of time with a lot of friends that are Jamaican from Florida growing up. I've traveled to Jamaica with them and spent time with their family. And like as close as it can be, man, like it is a sacrament. Like it gives you a different perspective. It can enlighten you, and it helps me on a daily basis. I'm not saying that I don't acknowledge and love and like all of those other things I mentioned are everything to me. But if it was like, what's keeping you in this community, it's not all of those other things. It's the plant. It's the love of the plant. It's keeping me in this space, like just being able to grow. Going, I know a lot of people say like, we don't have these big sessions anymore. And that kind of bothers me because it's like, did you start consuming cannabis and falling in love with the effects of this plant because it got you to hit somebody else's pipe or hang out with them or like get to go to their house or see their things? Like, no, man, like it's the plant. It was always the plant. That's what bonded us all. And like, that's what we sometimes are so quick to forget about or be naive to. And I think that's the big thing is like the future of the plant, like what's next for this. Cause like, I do think there's a lot more still to be undiscovered. There's, so much more to the plant. I never would have seen Puffco's coming. I would have never seen mobile dabbing the way it has become. I wouldn't have seen anything become, I mean, man, it was so hard for it to be socially acceptable before with a blowtorch and to always tell people that like, hey, I'm kind of ashamed about this. Like, I don't like fucking busting out a blowtorch. I don't like carrying a book bag with butane in it.
Feels
like,
extreme.
Fuck yeah, man. You show it to your parents who grew up hitting a pipe or rolling a joint. And you're like, check this out. And they're like, what the fuck, David?
Yeah.
So like, it's cool now to see it become even a little more socially acceptable. That I think those things are keeping me in the space. And then for me, the future, or for Rare, the future of the brand, I couldn't, after everything we've done, just all of a sudden be like, oh, I don't want this anymore. I know it's getting harder and harder day by day to be an independent operator. And anybody who's out there who's running a license and is an independent operator. So that's something I want to say too. Every single gram that we make is made by me. I don't hire anyone to make our hash. There's never been another person to make hash that's been under that sticker. It's always been me, and it always will be until I say something different. People will know when I'm not making that hash by hand anymore. And it won't, and I promise I wouldn't hand off those responsibilities lightly. So if it ever is somebody different, or other than myself, it won't be much different than myself, is what I meant to say. But yeah, that's what's keeping me in this space. The future. I know I'm getting older. I just turned 40. I'm like, there's things you want to do. And one of those things, man, is like leave a legacy. It's like, how do you do that shit with cannabis? And it's like maybe mine isn't necessarily with my name. Maybe it's carrying on somebody else's legacy, such as Rick Simpson, and kind of like evolving on it.
Right.
And that's what I hope to keep me in this space is like the future of the plant. And for Rare, to keep Rare in the space, the future of Rare, in hopes one day that we do get that app going. I think it would take us being in a couple other states to make it worthwhile, because it costs money. Like I researched it, I tried. It wasn't easy. And
then getting people to use it, that's.
Yeah. And man, if you ever put your name in one of those websites where they're like, I need to make an app.com, God, dude, be really careful. They won't stop texting and calling you for years. It's the worst.
That's funny. Any advice to other hobbyists, whether they're home growers or home hash makers or people considering becoming an independent operator?
Yeah. If you're considering, I kind of go backwards on that, answering the questions. If you're considering becoming an independent operator or getting a license, always remember your team is everything. I had to realize that on my own. No one told me that. I thought headstrongly, I'll do this all on my own. I'll be one of those guys that kills it. And that's not how it works. You need a team. This is a business. There's a financial regard. There's paperwork. There's bookkeeping. And you want to move fast. And part of moving is taking your hats off. If that makes sense, when you go into this cannabis independent operator business, you're wearing like 12 hats. You're the guy who's doing pop-ups. You're the guy who's delivering. You're the guy who's doing paperwork. You're the guy. So start to think about all that. Like every time you can, take off one of those hats and pass it on to the next guy who might seem like he's better wearing that hat than you. There's nothing wrong with admitting that. That'd be my advice for independent operators. Number 2, home
hash makers and home growers.
Home hash making and home growing, man, choose your lane. Don't try to do it all. Don't try to be the guy who breeds, grows, makes their own hash. You'll get caught up pretty quickly. Doing it all spreads you really thin. I was taught in the electrical trade, you don't want to be the plumber, electrician, HVAC, and framer. You want to be the best at one thing, figure that shit out, and continue to torque the wrench, and never consider yourself the best. You want to be the best, right? But never consider yourself the best. The guy who thinks he knows everything is the guy who dies on the job site. Never get overzealous, but always be fucking ready to learn more. You know, always be eager to fucking subscribe to the next thing, and try to collaborate. If there is the guy who is in your home growing community who's like, hey man, I pull my whole grow down for hash every year and that's all I do, hit that guy up with some inquiries. I'm not saying don't make your own hash making, don't make your own home hash, don't breed. But when you do it all, don't do it all half-assedly. Try to dial in one thing at a time and be really good at it. And don't be scared to ask for collaborative efforts. If there's a guy who's out here breeding some really good plants and you have a really good female or a really good male, what's it going to hurt to ask him if he wants to collab? Give him your really good female, give him your really good male, and you guys start combining efforts. Same with the edible making. You see some guy over there making some, like we mentioned before, some crazy good ice pops. That guy was on the med market. He never made it to the recreational side. Do you know how good he'd be doing right now if he just stuck to his guns? You know how many people would love, and I hate saying this, you don't know how novel what you're doing in the home grow market is until it's taken to that retail side. Yeah, Sacred Seats is one of them. He's a really good edible maker, and I think sometimes collaborating, that's how we all got to where we are. He would make edibles for us. I'm not saying don't do it all. I'm just saying, like, for the home grower, don't spread yourself too thin. It's really easy to get caught up looking at social media and seeing all the other aspects of cannabis and wanting to get involved in all those. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is a big difference in doing something well, good, and mediocre.
Right. And thinking that you can, you know, to your point about what you experienced in Oklahoma, like that you can cheat these margins or you can avoid having to do a split or something.
Dude, yeah. Definitely. You know, be humble, always. And, you know, if you're in an illegal state, I'm not telling you to run out and freaking talk to people about what you're doing. I mean, the first sentence in the Grower's Bible by Jorge Cervantes says, you know, don't tell anyone about your grow. That's the first thing. So, like, I'm not telling you to give yourself up, but if you are in a legal market and there's a guy down the street making some really good gummies, what's it hurt to take some of your rosin over there and ask him to do a split on some gummies with you?
Right. As opposed to trying to become the next gummy king.
Exactly. / breeder king / seed, you know, you get it.
Well, where can people find you if they've enjoyed listening to this? We've had quite the discussion here. Where can they find you in Oklahoma? Where can they find you in general if they want to connect, see what you're up to?
Yeah, in Oklahoma, we're available across the map. It's an aggressive market, so dispensaries are opening and closing. I mean, I wore a sweater today. I'm just now realizing it's a cannabis grow that was woman owned. It was called Cola Cannabis, and they're retired. They had to close their doors because it was just too hard. It's an aggressive market. So if you're looking for our product, I wouldn't want to just name dispensaries because there's a whole list of them. Use weed maps, type in RARExtracts, will pop up immediately. The Oklahoma City area, you can always find us in Mosaic. It's a dispensary owned by Resonant Cult Grow. We collaborate with them pretty often. Our RSO should always be readily available there. In the Tulsa area, another staple is called the Bodega Boys. They have multiple locations. If you go to Tulsa, another cool thing about Oklahoma that not a lot of people know is they have an out-of-state medical marijuana license program. So you can apply for the medical marijuana license as an out-of-state resident, and you can get a temporary card for when you come and visit Oklahoma. And you can do that on the internet. You just type in temporary medical marijuana card Oklahoma. So if you want to come and fly out and try some of the RSO or any of our other products, I would advise trying to do it that way. It's pretty cool. I don't know many other states that are medicinal that have that opportunity.
Yeah. And what about online? Where can they find you?
So Instagram, Resisting Arrest, spelt that way. Resisting and then AHREST is my personal account. It's insight from my life and posts about me and shit like that. It's nothing but really personal stuff. There is, if you want to, you can scroll back in the feed and see a lot of earlier hash making. The RARExtracts business account is, I think, RARExtracts LLC at this point. We get deleted pretty regularly. Unfortunately. Yeah, man. Like even if you type in rare extracts, just how it's spelled on Instagram, it'll show you that account is banned. The hashtag is also banned. So if you use that hashtag, it's not going to work. But what's cool is you can search it, and a lot of the old posts come up from the hashtag from the old page, which is wild the way that the history works. But yeah, we've tried to pay for recovery specialists and stuff like that, and none of it has worked. So please spare me if you're one of those people who has a friend who can help us get the account back. I promise they can't. We've talked to Instagram. That shit's not coming back. Yeah. And so on Facebook, Rare RSO is the Facebook page. We made a Rare Extracts page and a Rare RSO page, but it seems like the Rare RSO page is, I think, the only one existing anymore. The social media is kind of
the graveyard we play.
Yeah, man.
Well, thanks so much for your time, man. I really appreciate this. I know we were shooting for an hour and we're closing in under 3, but
yeah, it's crazy.
That's it for now. New episodes drop weekly to help you grow better weed, make better hash. Hit subscribe, leave a review, share with a friend. As always, I'm your host, Ben Owens, and we'll see you next time.